Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Off the Wall Games Roundtable. As always, I'm Dyer, aka Rob, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Mike.
Hey, I'm kind of sickish tonight, unfortunately, but I'm here.
Oh, we're glad you could make it. And
Thank you.
returning from previous roundtables, we have Jim.
Hi, guys.
And Snarb.
Hello, hello.
So, before we jump into things here, just take a look at the background that Betty whipped up.
Yep.
That is very nice.
Yes.
It's primarily derived from the PS1 Cho Aniki. I never got around to playing that one, but by all accounts, it's very foobar. Even for that series standard, believe it or not.
Yes, very. It is definitely one of those games, and ironically enough, we will not be discussing that in this stream. Well,
Yay.
Yeah, I was a little surprised by that.
Yeah, a taste perhaps of things to come.
Perhaps if we do a sequel. Now, I had told Betty when she was making this, I was going to give her carte blanche to go ahead and do whatever she wanted to with the background, and the only stipulation was that she had to use the avatars we picked out, which she did.
Mm-hmm.
But she said she wanted Choniki, so I was like, okay. Well, she got Choniki, all right. This was a game.
I just realized I'm holding you as the Bette umbrella, and I have the Curse of Sheeps.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I thought that was an inspired thing she did on her part.
Yeah, no, it's pretty great.
So, yeah, you're going to have to explain that one when we get closer to it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Gladly.
So what we're doing tonight is we're discussing off-the-wall games. Not in the sense that they're weird, but some of them are plenty weird. But more of a, like, these are games that don't exactly have, they're not just, weird games with standard gameplay. So, note, everyone waiting, there will be no Booger Man.
Awful defensive, aren't you?
Just a little. Who wants to make something out of it?
I was gonna say, I don't see that Mawson Power's here yet, but I'm sure he will be disappointed that Booger Man didn't make the cut.
Yeah, if he pops in, sorry. No Booger Man for Mawson.
Kate likes what she's tried to Booger Man.
I actually like the game too, for what it's worth.
Okay, Kate, Snarb, you guys will just have to agree to disagree on that one, all right? Hey, thanks for coming in, Kate.
Yeah, hi, Kate.
So, let's see. While we're waiting for any more people to start filtering in, let's talk about our avatars here. Jim, you picked the prince from Katamari Damacy.
Right. Yep. Prince, the son of the king of all cosmos. I mean, I'm sure we can get into more detail when we actually talk about Katamari, but yeah, I chose the prince with the titular Katamari there. So,
yep. And Snarb, yours is an interesting choice itself. That is what's that character's name?
That is Linda from Stretch Panic. The game has also been localized as, I think, Freak Out in Europe, and then it's like, I'm trying to remember the Japanese name, but yeah, it had 3 different names for some reason. G-Bill. But that is the protagonist. She has a scarf, a demonic scarf, which we'll go into once we get to that game.
Yeah.
very fun, but everybody's least favorite treasure game, if I had to guess.
I've never even played it, so
Well, I was about to say it's like it's one that I just recently discovered
and
as far as a treasure game.
I remember reading a bit about it in the Hardcore Gaming 101 book on treasure games. So now, Mike, if you're able, how about your avatar?
Yes, that is a pink sheep from the game Trio the Punch Never Forget Me, an actual arcade game that Data released in the 80s. Normally, you pick one of three characters, a ninja, a brawler, or a barbarian. However, in one level later, called A Curse of Sheeps, if you beat the level or if you lose, you get transformed into this pink sheep for the next level because I don't know why, but the sheep is surprisingly powerful as it shoots smaller sheeps that bounce out in front of it, and it can shoot several of these, and they're a little slow, but they have infinite range, and it's actually a surprisingly good power-up to have, temporary though it is.
Nice.
So.
And hey, Ahan,
Oh,
thanks for jumping in. And
Weird Dreams.
yeah, to answer your question, I never played that myself, but I remember seeing
Yeah.
ads for it way back when.
Yeah, I'm somewhat familiar with that one. It is very Amiga as all hell.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I've only played the DOS version. I was able to actually get quite a ways in, but never beat it. There's a lot of timing-related stuff in that game. If you don't have perfect timing, you die. If you don't know the solution, you die. It's one of those games.
Almost a Dragon Slayer type approach,
Not
or
quite. It's not like you actually have full control of the character. It's more of a platformer. You can jump and stuff, but it's just very Amiga in the sense that you run into something and it just kind of kills you, and it can be something very innocuous, or it can be something obvious like the giant angry bee man that chases you after the very first portion of the game.
okay, so very trial and error gameplay.
Yes, exactly. Most comparable probably to maybe Another World or Out of This World in
Okay.
terms of like kind of how it functions, but I think Out of This World is a lot fairer.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I know on those those ads that they ran in magazines back then for it, always intrigued me, but I remember finding out it was for, PCs, and I was like, oh, I'll never play this. To date, I have not, but I really liked how it looked. So, well, to conclude the whole Avatar thing, I am the Bat Umbrella from the game Panic, aka Switch, for the Sega CD. And we're going to be talking about that one, so. So, let's say we kick this off. What are we talking about first? Trying something semi-new right now. We actually have a load of screenshots to go with these. So I will be flipping over from the background now. Oh, wait, Kate, you've never heard of Panic?
Mhm.
Oh, you're going to hear a lot more about that later on. So, all right, let's jump over to our first entry, which should be Tax Avoiders for the Atari 2600. Okay, now
There you go.
it is a very I really don't know how to describe this game. It's like a pseudo platformer in a way. My voice is coming in kind of quiet. Let me try this. How about now, Kate?
Also, hi Brandon.
Yep.
Glad he could make it.
Yeah. Welcome aboard, Brandon. Okay. Okay, good. I just moved the mic, that's all. So I'll sit back just a little bit. Anyway, Tax Avoiders. I found this game at a KB toy store in the late 80s for 50 cents brand new.
Well,
And
it's something.
it was like, I have $2 in my pocket right now. It's a new Atari game. I'll buy it. So, just reading the cover here, it's like, yeah. Created by Daryl Wagner, a licensed tax consultant, and former IRS revenue agent. Doesn't that just scream fun to you?
I mean, I guess if you're rich, avoiding taxes is kind of exhilarating, but for the rest of us, it's actually an annoyance.
That just reminds me of when Krusty the Clown's assets were seized and his restaurant became IRS Burger. That's all I can think of. And there's your Simpsons reference for tonight.
I mean, you got a 1040 right here on the cover. I mean, what's more exhilarating than that?
Yeah, well, I looked at the back and I saw this.
And I mean, now the crosshair with the IRS agent, that's a little concerning, but...
But this is what you see when you start playing the game. Now,
and wow. That's actually tame compared to the actual gameplay.
Well, if I remember correctly, you're supposed to collect the dollar signs and avoid the red signs, which are audits. And there's a hidden elevator that moves up and down between the levels. And as the months progress, you just have to collect all the money until all of a sudden you're transported to this screen. And this is where it gets even weirder, because you see that IRS agent there?
Mm-hmm.
That's apparently, what the hell was his name? Because they had some weird names. There was like Waggy, Eggy, and some other guy.
Oh, I guess I didn't even realize they had names.
Yeah. Let me see. I did an article on this on my OPCFG site way back when. So let me see here.
I appreciate that the IRS agents are just shadowy figures, whereas you're just some guy whose name could be Jim for all we know.
Yeah. All right, let me see.
Hi, Pace.
Sorry, I realize we have a Jim in here.
Right.
This is kind of a default name sometimes.
You're good.
Okay, I got it. All right.
It should also be noted that the red squiggles on the other screen are supposed to represent bureaucratic red tape.
Is that what they are?
Wow.
I thought it was audits.
Yeah, it's supposed to represent red tape from what research I did into the game.
All right, well, here's what I wrote way back when about it. This, quote, true-to-life game was created by American Video Game, and some guy who was a, quote, licensed tax consultant and former IRS revenue agent, once again proving that the government should not stick their noses into gaming. You get a game that looks like, if you go by the cover, a game about filling out your taxes and being a spy. The back of the box talks about earning $1 million over the course of a year and keeping it by avoiding audits, taxes, red tapes, and bad investments. Boring.
Although this does remind me, there are only 3 weeks left, a little more than 3 weeks left to everyone to get their actual taxes in. So just a heads up.
You mean you didn't wake up on New Year's morning,
January 1st,
and go,
no,
whoop, New Year's time to get started on those taxes, Nettie?
No, well, there's another Simpsons reference, but no, I did not do that. I actually heard that if you do your taxes too soon, there's a greater chance you might get audited. So,
yeah,
that's a thing.
So here's where it goes from here. Okay, you play as John Q, the overtaxed player, and you're on the run from the evil tax man. Now, I put a trademark at the end of that. He's actually three people in one. Eggy, the IRS agent, Waggy, the CPA, and Toodles, the investment advisor. Okay, and right here, governmental red tape. So, and even in the manual, it said, the elevator takes you to various levels slowly, like normal government action. The days count up through the year along with your cash. Then at random points in the game, the screen changes, and the evil tax man, Eggy, comes out and tries to catch you. If he does, he'll take your money and send you back to the first screen. You can climb up ladders and jump from block to block to avoid him. Meanwhile, he's following you like some kind of ghost. Now, I forget which one does which, but when he turns pink or green, it's safe to touch him, because then he's either Waggy or Toodles.
Yeah,
sounds like the names of dogs. I just wanted to mention that.
I had a dog named Wags once, which is the weird thing.
Yeah, well, there you go. What the hell?
I was gonna say, from what I remember, if Eggy, the IRS agent, touches you, you lose. Is it like a game over, or I thought you lost half of your money?
Yeah, he takes some of your money and sends you back to the previous screen with the elevators.
Right, right. The CPA, I think, takes $1,000 or so, but also gives you some kind of tax shelter, and then the investment consultant is like just a tax shelter without taking
money.
any money from. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. So Waggy's pink and Toodles is green. So now, the funny thing is, when you're trying to avoid Iggy, you see all these things. They're abstract icons. They're supposed to be tax-sheltered investments. And they're supposed to be a train caboose, the sun, an oil derrick, and a glass flask. But they're so abstract about the instructions, tell you what they are, you'd have no idea whatsoever. Because, like the train caboose looks like the damn Kool-Aid Man.
Oh, yeah.
You invested in Kool-Aid. Good job. Oh, yeah. Now, if you
shame about your walls, though.
Yeah, exactly. Now, if you pick the right one, your cash increases, and that's when he turns into either Waggy or Toodles. And you pick up the wrong thing, your cash starts dropping. And then you have to run around until something good appears. And if it appears and you touch it, it might actually be something that drains your money even faster. And then you just keep repeating these two screens over and over until the clock hits December 31st. I then described it as being ridiculously stupid, mind-numbingly stupid. It's boring, repetitive, sounds like shit, and has one of the dumbest plots for an action game ever.
I was going to say, I don't think you even mentioned that the first screen is almost seizure-inducing with how fast the dollar signs and red tape flash across the screen.
Oh, yes, that is true. And now that I've jumped back over to the chat here, Control V, how you doing? Thanks for coming in. I'm tired of these jokes about my giant hand. The first such incident occurred in 1956. So
reference number
somehow
3,
there's so many relevant Simpsons references for these sort of for every situation. It seems like even your taxes.
Yeah, right.
They've been out as long as they have. They've done everything.
The fingers means the taxes.
And Brandon, you might be right about that. This could be a precursor to Wall Street Kid.
Which wouldn't have been a bad pick either, because that's pretty oddball premise for a game too.
It is, although I do find that one kind of inscrutable. I mean, I don't have the attention for like management type games in the first place, but that one is just especially tedious from what I gather.
Yeah, I guess you could, loosely call it a simulation game, but yeah, still, yeah, the fun factor I don't think is there either.
The tax, his avoiders, it works on so many levels. You know what that game is missing, though? A financial panther.
Get him, Shiva.
Exactly. John Q, you're $1 overdrawn. Get him, Shiva!
Yeah.
Suddenly, this has become a Simpsons cast.
Why not? I mean, we're talking about some really bizarre games tonight, so.
Yeah. Well, if you want
to... Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, if I wanted to ruin the game further, I'd make a reference to the Beatles' Taxman, but Rob would probably boot me out so fast my head would spin, so...
Bye, Mike.
Stockholder syndrome.
Bye-bye.
I like that.
Hey, Logan.
LDP.
Welcome in, Logan. So, yeah, tax avoiders. This is a game that I actually had gotten rid of when I had to sell off my collection originally. And then just for some sheer stupid sense of nostalgia, I actually bought a new copy.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, Dyer, if that was 50 cents well invested or not.
Well, considering the original game is appreciated in price quite a bit, I'd have to say that compounded dividends, financial interest, and blah, blah, blah. I'm afraid you're not qualified for a loan this year, Jim.
Don't forget about your fiduciary, just because I think fiduciary is an inherently hilarious word.
Kind of like tertiary.
Tertiary.
Yeah, you gotta watch the replay to see what the hell that is. Well,
It's something, Logan.
I was gonna say avoiders is in the name, and that would be your best course of action.
Yep.
Pretty
Also,
much.
Snarb, I think I cut you off earlier. Were you going to say something?
Yeah, I actually have 2 questions here. First off, did you ever manage to get 1 million? And secondly, can you get 1 million? Because I noticed here there's only 6 digits in that number. I guess maybe it's supposed to represent the impossibility of the average American ever being a millionaire, but
Especially considering the point in time that the game would have come out.
Political commentary.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh no, it's even more relevant today. Shit.
Logan. I think I actually was really bored one afternoon in the late 80s and actually did play it and managed to get, I think it was 99999 or whatever by the end of the year.
Since it doesn't display 1 million, I think it would be hilarious if it just looped back over to 0.
I lost it all. An interesting thing about this game, though, is that it actually borrowed a lot of the sound effects as well as the design of the main character from the early 20th Century Fox game Porky's.
Oh, yeah.
Based off of that sex comedy, right?
Yes, that's exactly what it is.
Oh, Jeebus.
Yeah, that had a game.
From what I've heard, that's a rather inscrutable game, too.
It's
Yeah.
it's a thing. I'll just say that
Yeah.
much. I'd rather,
Right.
out of all the games that 20th Century Fox made, I think I'd rather play MASH.
That's fair.
So, but you know, they did have a couple other good ones.
And my brother actually played MASH in the Texas Instruments computer he had back in the day. Not bad, actually.
I just remember one of the highlights of that is when you're operating on the guy with the shrapnel in him. It looks like Operation.
Yep.
And if you try and get the shrapnel out of his body and you touch, one of the sides, it buzzes and then it's this ferret face up the top of the screen. Oh. Yes, excellent point about the 1980s there, Logan. As much as I love it, there was a lot of stuff wrong with it. So, but yeah, tax avoiders. It's definitely a game.
I was gonna say it's a thing.
It sure was a movie.
Exactly. So let's say we move on to one that might actually be a little weirder. We're going to talk about manja. Okay. Now, Snarb, I know you've played this one too, right? Or at least
I've seen a long play of it, if you could call it as such, or speedrun something. And yeah, it's interesting. It might actually be one of the first, not the first horror game, but it certainly has a lot of details in it that kind of match modern horror games. The whole premise is your mom wants to feed you too much food until you die, basically.
It's good for you,
And then she just chained me up in the basement for 15 years and fed me nothing but sauerkraut. Forever that one.
Yep. Here's what it says on the back of the box for manja. Your mother has been cooking all day, preparing your favorite pasta dish, but then nothing is too good for her favorite. Now it's only fair that you put a smile on her face, a gleam in her eye, and a glow in her heart. How? Got this weird silver here, so let's see. How else? Eat, manja. Come on, it's good for you. So, yeah. And here it is. That isn't just slightly disturbing, as it is.
Mamma mia. Is that supposed to be your dad or someone in the upper right there?
Your dad, grandpa, early rendition of Mario, who knows? The Commodore 64 A-Team game. That is...
I'm gonna say,
never played that one.
yeah. Whoever that portrait is, undeniably Italian, though.
Yeah. Granddad.
Granddad.
Now,
Beanstones? Sorry.
you can actually get rid of the food when mom isn't looking. Yeah, you got to eat some of it, but you can feed some to the dog. You can throw some out the window to the cat, that kind of thing. Here's another picture with food on the table. But you know what it makes me think of? Okay, it's no secret I'm no fan of the Wreck-It Ralph sequel. It just...
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan either.
It fell short of the original in quite a few ways.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it did. And, yes, I remember you mentioning that, Logan. But,
The
yeah,
milkshake pancake game?
that's exactly what it reminds me of.
Mm-hmm.
Which is the best part of the movie. And, of course, they didn't use it in the actual movie, just when the credits started.
Right.
The whole thing was basically just a big advertisement for Disney's website they had at the time, or if it's still around, I don't know.
Mm.
But whereas the first one is great, it's a love letter to classic games, that just was something else entirely. That was like, well, okay, we're going to do a sequel. We got to talk to today's kids.
All the memes
Yes.
forever.
All the memes. All the memes.
Also, did you know Disney owns everything now? Isn't that great that they own Star Wars and Marvel and
That's pretty much how that movie went. Yeah. See, if
Crosby does not approve.
they'd had any balls, they'd have called it Super Wreck-It Ralph and
Yeah.
done something else with classic games. But no, they had to appeal to the kiddies, who all just know all the internet now. So
Isn't appealing to kids what ruined Beyond Thunderdome?
I wouldn't say ruined, but it's definitely the third weakest in the series.
Wait, third? Really? Wait.
No, it's the third best.
No, I think it's the weak. Oh, you like it more than the original Mad Max?
I do actually.
I
not-
don't, but
was-
that's
I just wasn't a huge fan of the original.
Okay.
But Road Warrior.
It does
and Fury
feel like
Road-
not all the elements are there yet. I could see that.
Exactly.
But sorry, we digress. Movie talk was last stream.
Yes. But yeah, that kind of sums up Manja right there. And I guess if you eat too much, you explode. I don't know. I never made it to that point.
an animation
As
for
should
that
be
too, where
expected.
you explode?
Say again, Snarp?
Uh-huh.
Isn't there an animation of that happening where you explode, basically?
There might be.
Anyone
I'm trying to
familiar?
remember.
Anyone familiar with the beginning of Seven? On that note,
It's been a long time.
I thought you were going to bring up Monty Python, actually, for a
oh
second.
wow,
there.
Mr. Creosote. Shit, you're right. That also fits.
Hey,
Would you
Great
like
White
a
North is
weapon?
here.
Would you like a wafer thin mint? I could possibly eat another bite. Bugger off.
Hey, how's it going, Jay?
Hey man. We're apparently discussing movies because I'm trying to force the narrative. Sorry about that.
Stop trying to force narratives, Mike.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, the whole exploding stomach thing just makes you think of the first boss of Splatterhouse 2.
Hey, that's
True. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. That fits.
You watch his stomach just kind of be like...
There's probably also at least one Mortal Kombat fatality that accords to this, but damned if I can remember what exactly right now.
Yeah, who knows? Well,
I think something that Reptile had.
I
I don't know.
I
I'm
want
not
to
a fan
say,
of Mortal Kombat either, so...
yeah.
Yeah, I know that.
I want to say like Deadly Alliance or something like that had a fatality. I think it was Cyrax that like sucks you into his stomach and you're ground up and spit back out.
That sounds right.
That sounds
Yeah.
fun. Although,
Something like that, anyway.
I will say I did play Mortal Kombat for the Sega CD recently.
Oh, cool.
So that's definitely better than the Genesis version.
Yeah, that sounds
And of
sounds
course,
like it'd be more arcade accurate.
and of course that was better than the Super NES version. But I digress.
No question.
So let's move up a console now. Or actually, we'll skip the 5200 and go right to the 7800.
Just like everybody else did.
Yep, pretty much. Honestly, if you had an Atari 400 or 800, you could basically play the 5200 stuff anyway. And not have to worry about that stupid non-centering joystick.
Right.
So, yeah, going on to the 7800, we have a favorite of mine, Ninja Golf.
Hey, a good game.
Yeah, I know, finally,
Yes.
right? Oh. So, yeah, Ninja Golf. Who would have thought that ninjas and golf would actually work as a game?
It kind of sounds like the premise of one of those crappy like Godfrey Ho movies from the 80s. It's like, well, Ninja Mania was a thing, like Ninja Terminator or some crazy bullshit like that. But no, despite the goofy premise, this game is actually legitimately fun. It also does not betray its premise in any way. It has ninjas and it has golf, and that's totally what it's about.
Yep. Oh, man. BMX Ninja. I have not seen that one.
It's
I've
it's
heard
pretty
it's
bad.
terrible. Yes. Oh yeah, no, I saw Chris Asick, Pixel Musement, actually cover that one on his new series, No Nostalgia Retro Gaming, and it is crap. It's just bad. I don't recommend it.
Oh, that is pretty bad. Now, anyone who doesn't know what the whole thing behind Ninja Golf is, you have to go ahead and, become a ninja master by completing, 9 holes of Ninja Golf.
Mm-hmm.
So you start off, as you can see here, you're getting ready to swing, and once you swing, you got to play the ball where it lands. Now, when that happens, you have to get to the ball. Getting there is the challenge, because then you have stuff like this. Giant gophers that come out and attack you. Other ninja that come in from around frogs. I mean, it gets crazy.
Yeah, the gophers. I normally don't condone hitting rodents in most video games, but these guys are kind of jerks, so you kind of have to.
That's like Gopher for the 2600.
Yeah, that too.
Smack
Or
his head
No
with a
Good
shovel.
Gophers, one of my favorite pinball games.
Yeah. So you run to where your ball landed, you play it again, you go through another part. Like if you end up in the sand trap, you have to go through the desert. If you land in a water hazard, you have to go underwater.
Yeah. One thing I thought was kind of interesting is, well, I don't know. I mean, the Gophers look like they really suck. I haven't played this game. I just watched a long play of it. But yeah, depending on where you hit the ball, as far as if you're on the fairway or the rough or sand trap, seems like there's like progressively more difficult biomes, you could almost call it, that you go through.
Yeah.
And with the fairway seeming to be the most safe of those, and the water hazard with the sharks definitely looks like it's the most taxing.
Yeah, that is a pretty bad one. And I don't recall if you requested that one, Logan, but that's high praise, thinking of it as the best Iron Betty video we ever did. So if anyone's curious, they want to go back and watch it, it is in our Iron Betty playlist. So, and now, of course, when you finally make it, to the hole, do you have to sit there and put the ball into the hole? While everyone golf claps around you and stuff? No. You get to fight the dragon. And
Yes, this game actually has boss fights, which is pretty interesting.
For the 700 especially. There's so few of them that have boss fights. At least outside of some of your modern homebrews. But yeah, and he's not that hard to defeat. He gets faster with every hole, because it's always the same one on each hole.
Hello,
Hello, Sharon. So you made it.
Hey, Sharon.
But yeah, he'll
Hey
just
there.
He'll fly back and forth and shoot fireballs at you, and you just have to, pelt them with a whole bunch of ninja stars, and eventually he flies away. And then you move on to the
From
next
a
level.
third-person perspective, you fight the boss.
Mm-hmm. So it's like the bonus stages in Shinobi.
Right.
Which, while never my most favorite parts of those games, I do like the "you failed" bit, as Mike can attest.
right.
Yeah, I know you're fond of that one.
Yes, I am. Used it on many occasions.
Very many, yes.
Let's see here.
There's also a variety of power-ups that you can pick up as you're running between tee-off spots.
Yep. Now you get a health power-up. You get... I don't think you ever get a sword. I think it's always just your shuriken, right?
Shuriken, yeah. The shield seems to be very useful.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
As far as 15 seconds of invulnerability.
Yeah, it was 15 seconds to get you pretty far.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, one thing that I noticed too, your health, shurikens, and number of lives left is retained between levels. You don't recover your health at the start of each tee.
Yeah, it's true. And hey, Elle's here.
So adds to the challenge of it. Hello, Elle.
And I didn't even want to go into those just yet, Logan. And yeah, attacking the mutant penguins. I remember that.
Mm-hmm.
And going back a bit to the 20th century, like communist mutants from outer space. I think that's just a Space Invaders clone.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Ninja Golf is also one of those games where if you're looking for an original cartridge, it's on the pricey side. More so than most 700 games.
I would imagine, yeah.
Yeah, but
I mean, honestly, the gameplay doesn't look too bad. Like I said, I've never played this one, but it looks decent anyway.
As I recall, it made it onto that Atari 50th anniversary collection that came out for the Switch and whatever else.
Oh, okay, very nice. Mm-hmm.
And I think you can also get it for the VCS.
Okay.
Well, hey, good job on that one, Logan. Beating Castlevania.
Oh, very nice.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice.
Most excellent.
All right.
Still a good one.
Yeah, but Ninja Golf, I definitely feel like it was during that era where every game had to have ninjas shoehorned in somehow.
Mm-hmm. And being a later 7800 release, it was basically when Atari was like, well, this console's doomed. We have no fucks left to give, and let's just start putting anything weird out that we can. Hey, let's get Al Lewis to go ahead and appear as Grandpa Munster in one of our games.
Yeah. But just throw everything at the wall, see what sticks.
Pretty much. Not a lot of it did. There were so many prototypes that never got released. It's like they had a port of Toki planned. They found the prototype for that. There was a Chuck Norris game.
Toki, the monkey game, right?
Yes.
Spinning monkey.
Yes.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Just checking.
Yep. And they had a couple of shooters even that never made it out. Very Commodore 64 style stuff, though.
Mm.
So, but I think one of the last games they released for it was Scrapyard Dog.
There's that platformer that... it's a platformer. That's all I know really about that one.
Yeah.
Didn't that one have a Lynx port too?
It did. The Lynx version was actually better. Mainly because they cut out a lot of the extraneous bullshit that the 700 version had. And believe me, the 700 version, it's like they wanted that to be their competition with Mario, and they blew it big time. There's just some weird junk going on in that game that I can't even figure out.
So is it more like Crapyard Dog?
Pretty much.
Okay, just checking.
All right. So, what? Okay, this sounds awfully familiar to me. Neo Geo part shooter, part puzzle game.
Oh, that's not Twinkle Star Sprites, is it?
Yeah, I think that is.
I love that game. It's a good one.
So, I think I managed to play it once, but that was about it. All right, so let's see here. We're going to, speaking of arcade gaming, we're going to go ahead and, that's right, Midnight Mutant starring Grandpa. It's actually a really competent Zelda-esque game, too.
No.
So, and that one actually has bosses, too. And they're pretty cool.
Sorry, Dyer, I need to step out for just a second.
Oh,
I'll
sure,
be right back.
Yeah, we did, didn't we, Kate? So, until Jim gets back, we can always talk about Twinkle Star Sprites for a couple minutes.
I'm terrible at that one. I seem to remember there was at some point, HG 101 had some kind of game competition thing going on, and I entered it, and I was terrible at that one. I think I did better in all the other games.
No, I think I got wiped pretty early. There are some people who are really devoted to that one, and I mean, I think it's a very good game, but I usually don't like eat and crap the same game because I don't really like the grind of the competitive scene in that way. I prefer to spend more time on multiple games at once if I can help it, but that's just me.
Yeah, I think I played it once or twice, and that was it.
Nonetheless, Twinkle's still a very good game. I personally like the Nanja Manja quite a bit. Little weird fluff balls.
Give me 1 second. Sharon, I know you're here. I was just answering your question a couple minutes ago. So.
And that is my stupid cough, which I'm trying to mute as much as I can tonight.
You're doing a pretty good job.
I think the noise canceling is actually cutting it out a little bit.
At least.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
man,
And I'm back, guys.
All right, Jim's back.
Welcome back.
Hey there.
Thank you.
All right, Mike, I hope you got your cough fairly well under control for a bit, because now we're getting to one I know you got a lot to say about.
Oh, I'm probably going to mute quite a bit, but go right ahead.
We're going to move into arcades for a couple minutes to talk about this game. Trio the Punch, Never Forget Me.
A staple
Kate.
of the Japanese kusoge scene. In fact, I want to say that this game was kind of at the forefront of the kusoge movement of what I assume was a kusoge movement of the 80s. Was there one of those? I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm making shit up off the top of my head. Anyway,
Is this one before or after Kato and Ken, or Kato and Ken?
I think it might actually predate it, but let me check that.
Wow.
Trio
this
the
might be the
Punch.
progenitor.
Oh, no, wait, no. Wow, this game was 1990? I could swear it was older. Hang on.
Me too.
No, I am way off. The original Kato and Ken was 1987, so Snarb, you got that one. Although the Western version, JJ and Jeff, was also 1990, so
yes.
Now, with a Trio the Punch, on the surface, it just looks kind of like just another arcade beat 'em up, but then it just takes an abrupt detour into what the fuck. And
how do we describe it?
It just doesn't even, feel like a beat 'em up after playing it for a little bit. Well,
yeah, nominally, it's supposed to be like a side-scrolling beat 'em up, sort of a kung fu game, sort of, where the goal is that you are supposed to beat several enemies and collect the hearts they drop. Get enough of the hearts and the boss will show up for that stage. Kick the boss's butt and then it's off to the next level. After you hit a roulette wheel, which will give you a power-up of some sort, or a power down if you're not lucky. That's the basic skeleton of the game. It's just that it's laced with, like, the Statue of Liberty's weight in coke. It's just very... It makes no sense, and it doesn't even pretend to. Like, for example, when you lose, there's, like, this Baroque statue or whatever that when you continue, a clown mask suddenly gets put on it. I don't know what's up with that. And I'm not even going to try and guess. For some reason, most of the enemies you fight in the early part of the game are clones of Data East Superstar Karnov.
That's stretching the definition of superstar, if you ask me.
Yeah, pretty much. It's tongue-in-cheek, but the first boss, I think, is a giant Karnov statue that shoots fire from its foot, and it's carried around by 4 tiny Karnovs. So,
This guy?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow, you actually got a screenshot of him. Well, shit. Yeah, that there's a pretty good summation of the... Yeah, and for some reason, Santos there is able to summon magic that has him shout oof, which then I guess bounces around the screen or whatever, and... Yeah, Colonel Sanders also shows up in a later level. It might be a reference to that Hanshin Tigers thing, that curse that got broken recently, some sports thing, I don't really know, but that's something that has something to do with that. And, like, one level has you fighting one of those giant Nekos, those giant, like, money cats, luck cats or whatever. Another level is saying the phrase "Weebles fall down" repeatedly, and every time the phrase completes, the entire game freezes up for a moment. And it's just full of very, very Japanesque weirdness. I don't know how better to put it. It's like this game feels kind of like just like, you know, like several designers' notebooks that just kind of threw their like sketchbooks together or whatever and just decided to see what game they could draw from like an exquisite corpse style sort of design ethos. I really don't know how it came to be. But I do know that it is at least, you know, somewhat beloved among the Kusoge scene, that it was one that I think was deliberately made to be bizarre and batshit for whatever reason. And I'm not going to spoil the ending, but it is a pretty amazing ending, I must say.
But Mike.
What's that?
You figured it out.
Wow, go me. Or like, and then they say something weird at the... It's a deliberate anticlimax, but it is the best anticlimax ever in video games. I will say, though, that this game's last quarter kind of sucks, where it goes to the future, and you mostly just fight these generic blobs, and they take too much hits, and the game just kind of loses its personality. I don't know. Maybe they were running out of time and or budget at that point. But if you can barrel through that, then it's worth it to get to the end if you can at all possible.
Yeah. And hey,
I don't know. Oh yes.
Yep, Zaffro, and I saw Great White North is here also.
Yep.
Hello.
No, this is actually not about the comedian Norimaro. But it's weird though, because that like big face that Santos gets, it looks like it's like some sort of like Japanese celebrity parody. I don't know how. Maybe it is, for all I know, but I have no idea who that would be.
Now,
in whatever the case,
I'm going to jump back to the main stream image for a minute, because your avatar is from this game,
right?
So
that is true. A curse of sheeps. Win-win.
Yep.
I curse you. And then the sheep's actually very powerful, and then you fight a giant totem that's just random shit glued together, and you just keep spamming tiny
Pretty
bouncing
much.
sheep at it, and you'll win eventually. So
Yeah, I was going to say, for a curse, it's actually a pretty powerful curse.
yeah, I wish
right.
it was cursed more, actually.
Right, yeah. It's gonna, or I mean, a powerful in your favor curse is, I guess, what I mean to say.
Yeah, like those curses from like Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door. But
yeah.
Oh, and just one thing I want to mention offhand. Anyone else notice that the Barbarian Rose sub that is pose is almost exactly like Roston?
Yes, I was going to comment on that at some point. It's definitely a parody of Roston 2, or Nastar Warrior as it is known here. which is also kind of an infamous Kusogei, but not intentionally so. So it's kind of funny they picked up on that. It almost feels like a wink and a nod to that.
Now,
Possible, yeah.
I want to say something. I don't usually do this for someone in the chat, but I think Logan earned this one with his Arkanoid comment.
Yep.
Arcade beat 'em up. Is it on Fightcade? I guess I'm not familiar with what that is.
Does this game even have 2-player?
That's a good
I think
question.
it does have 2-player co-op, but I'm not entirely sure. I only ever played myself, so.
Well, before we jump back over to the
Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, before we jump back over to the screenshots, for everyone who wasn't here at the beginning, I just wanted to, again, heavy admire Betty's work here for a minute.
That is fantastic.
Yes, it's good.
So, jumping back over here, and we got right back to the beginning. Let's go ahead, shall we? Some tax avoiders for you, some manja, ninja golf, and back trio the punch. Now, you were saying about the barbarian dudes, that the guy down in the on the lower half, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
And I also grabbed this too.
Ah, there we go. Curse of the Sheeps.
Yep.
Perfect.
Yeah. And you know, it's funny when Betty saw that sheep originally, she's just like, "That's Mike, isn't it?"
You know, it's very Sotenga core, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah, hi, Mike.
As I
Sorry.
keep saying lately, for some reason, I keep calling things Sotenga core. I don't know if I'm just getting egotistical or what, delusional. Call it what
I
you
mean,
will.
you've called some of this stuff that I like Snarbcore, so I appreciate that, if nothing else.
Core's a good core's a good suffix. What can I say?
Strictly for the Snarb core.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right. So we're. Anyone else say anything about trio before we move on?
Oh, anyone know what the hell the title means? Why am I even asking?
Trio
I think
a
it's-
punch.
Never.
Well,
forget that.
yeah, there is a trio you can play as, I guess.
Yes.
Well-
That part is obvious. It's the never forget me part that I don't think anybody has figured out.
Besides, only one of them punches anyway.
Yeah.
Well,
I guess the game is so weird that if you play it, you probably will never forget them.
yeah, that's the
Well,
truth.
you know, yeah, I'll give it that. I suppose. So.
All right, Kate, you want to know what would be considered Rob core? Well, think about it.
Shooters.
Shooters and any kind of classic horror platformers,
Mm-hmm. Splatterhouse.
specifically. But Castlevania, Ghosts and Goblins.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Oh, sure, yep.
But definitely shooters and running guns on top of that.
Mm-hmm.
You've earned your badge, Logan. Congratulations, sir. All right, so we're going to jump back over to home consoles now. And what's our first game for that? Let's see. Ah, yes. Snake, Rattle, and Roll.
The childhood favorite.
Mm-hmm.
And definitely, I don't think I've ever quite played a game like it. I've played games that are, kind of along the similar lines, like, say, Q*bert and whatnot. But, and it's like, okay. You play this one of two snakes. What are they, Rattle and Roll?
Yeah, I believe that's him.
And you have to go around these isometric mazes. And you eat these little things called nibbly pibblies that let you grow your tail. And you have to get to the exit before you die. It kind of is, Logan. It's a little bit, definitely more complex than Marble Madness. But it does have the same kind of vibe to it, I think. I was never very good at it, but...
Similar aesthetic, isometric perspective. So, yeah, I can see the similarities there.
It should also be noted that Rare made a bunch of isometric games for like the ZX Spectrum. I think they might have made some for the Amiga as well. So this is kind of an evolution of that, where those were single-screen adventure games, and then they just made a full-blown platformer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's one of the few games they actually ported to the Mega Drive, but only in Europe.
No, I actually wasn't aware of the port.
Yep, they ported, I think, also RC Pro-Am and Battletoads, but their port of Snake Rattle and Roll never made that to the U.S. It's strictly NES over here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Dang.
But as you can see, we go along, and here's a shot of the snake. I can't remember which one's which. Eating nibbly pibblies and growing his tail.
Mm-hmm.
And the little machine looks like a couple of tubas strapped together. I think that's where the nibbly pibblies pop out of.
Right?
Yep. That is indeed what the purpose of that is. Not pictured is the giant severed foot that inevitably tries to crush you instantly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which can be killed if you lick it enough.
You know, when you put it that way, that's terrible.
Yeah, it's like, was this game designed for Quentin Tarantino?
Yeah, right.
Jesus Christ. God damn it. Maybe.
But no, as you progress through the game, the nibbly pibblies also almost try to trick you. They will start like turning into bombs and explode when you try to eat them. I seem to recall they also grow small feet and try to run away from you.
Yeah, I think one of them in later levels even sprouts wings, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, the bizarreness definitely increases as you progress in the game as well.
Yeah, and true to being a Rare game, this game also gets pretty goddamn tough.
Right.
The first couple levels are fairly accommodating. I don't even think Stage 3 is all that bad, but I think Stage 4 was the one with the anvils, and that one can go fuck itself.
But and I was going to say, the isometric perspective translated to a NES controller definitely adds to the difficulty of the game as well.
Yeah.
Oh, Logan, I didn't even know Battletoads got an Amiga port. I can only imagine how jank that is.
Oof.
Yes, it did. And
Want
it's,
to
yeah,
imagine that.
just look it up.
Oh, boy.
And of course, don't forget Metal Gear Solid Snake Rattle and Roll.
Oh yeah.
I don't think that existed, but I will say I like Snake's Revenge more than Metal Gear Solid 4. That's my hot take of today. And apropos of nothing, but I'll shut up now.
And
We
let's
need to
see.
put more time into Snake's Revenge.
There's a later stage, I'm pretty sure.
Snake's Revenge honestly isn't bad. It's obviously not as good as the actual Metal Gear 2, but
Oh, definitely, yeah.
it's worth
I mean-
a spin someday. I think the music's rad, if nothing else.
But I mean, Kojima wasn't a fan of NES Metal Gear either, so
Yeah, no, they did kind of butcher that port.
right.
I've seen
Anyway,
conflicting stuff about that. There's sometimes he says he likes Snake's Revenge, other times he says it's stupid. Paraphrasing a little bit, but
no, that's fair. It's a bit of a polarizing game. Anyway, but yeah, Snake Rattle and Roll, that's a pretty good screenshot of the action there. Usually,
Right.
at least the areas where you can grab the nibbly pibblies usually do at least allow a fair deal of real estate, but there is some tricky platforming that you have to do later. I remember one level, this might even be the level, has magic carpets on it that
Yep.
are a little bit of a bear to maintain your balance on, and sometimes the boundaries of what is an instant death fall can be a little bit weird. I mean, the shadows below your snake are at least somewhat consistent, but even then, I feel like the perspective with those blue towers that you see, if you jump over them, you instantly fall off and die. So you have to watch out for that a lot in the later levels, and it just doesn't get any easier as far as well, maybe a little bit easier for the next few stages after Stage 4, but it does get very brutal in short order. I actually did manage to beat this once, but that took quite a few tries and practice and memorization to try and do.
Mm-hmm.
The controls are also a little bit tricky because, you're going isometric with the D-pad, and up means you're actually going upright, if I'm not mistaken, or was it up left? I forget which way it shifted, but it's not like Marble Madness where you have the option to just like have the control as it is. You have to go with the isometric arrangement, and it is it takes some practice to really get used to the movement and try not to instantly fall to your death according to how the game's perspective might screw you over.
Yeah,
That's definitely a learning curve to just the basic controls to the game.
Yeah, forget practice. I just like when I played the Konami port of Qbert, you kind of hold the controller kind of tilted.
Yeah.
That works too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Is that a nibbly pibbly with feet right there?
That is, yes.
That is,
exactly.
yes.
Yes, exactly.
What the hell is that orange thing there?
It was. I want to say it's almost like castanets, but it's an enemy.
Yeah, it's a bad guy. It is basically like a pair of clackers.
Yeah.
Sounds about right.
Also, you can die in the game. I mean, falling off the edge is the easiest way. You can take it. You can also die from damage on the first stage. If you fall in the water and stay there for too long, a shark will come and kill you. But actually, the stage timer, I would say, is a lot of times one of the biggest adversaries also.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, Rare was really big on timers.
Mm-hmm.
Don't I know it's having bad flashbacks to Cobra Triangle.
Speaking of which, that's the question right now. Which is better, Cobra Triangle or Snake Rattle and Roll?
Snake Rattle and Roll's better because I can actually fucking beat it. That's my science. That's how that works.
I haven't put as much time into Cobra Triangle, but honestly, I have more fun with Snake Rattle and Roll.
Me too. Yeah. Snake is actually, I think, I like its goofiness. I like how weird and abstract it is, and I do think that its visual design goes a fair deal to informing how fun its gameplay can be, at least when it's not being relatively brutal, but... Yeah, Cobra Triangle is also, I guess, partly a racing game, and I always suck at those. This is a pure, I'd say, action platformer for the most part, and I do generally tend to prefer those, isometric or no, but...
Well,
I like this game better overall, if I had to choose.
Another thing I would say about the gameplay loop is it's not necessarily a matter of... getting from point A to point B. You have to, along the way, eat enough of the nibbly pibblies so that your weight is enough that when you step on a scale, it opens the exit. So you have that extra challenge where, as you take damage, you'll lose some of the length of your snake. And so that's a added challenge to the gameplay as well.
Yeah, and the weight requirements, I think, get pretty steep later on in the game, so
right.
The margin for error really tightens up as you get near the end.
Now, I want to take a second and rebut Mike here.
But yes.
I think Cobra Triangle is better.
I don't, but go ahead and explain.
I can sum up for you in 3 words. Fry the monster.
Fuck you. You always goddamn bring that up. I know it's a fun phrase, but a fun phrase does not a superior game make.
That and some of the boss battles in Cobra Triangle are ridiculous.
Admittedly.
Oh, yeah. Like the boss battle where I ran out of time despite beating the fucking boss.
That was hilarious.
Yeah.
Sorry,
do you still have that video, by the way, Mike? Do you still have that?
Yeah, I thanks to Kate, who has so dutifully clipped it. Its permanent record is on for all my shame for the world to see. And
let me just say, on a serious note, I have no relative attachment to Snake Rattle and Roll at all. I didn't get to play that until years and years after it came out. Cobra Triangle I actually played back in the day quite a bit.
That's fair.
Yeah, I was going to say that's fair. So,
But
yeah, Snake Rattle and Roll. It was I wouldn't say a frequent rent, but I know it was a game that I would rent off and on and enjoy as a kid. Whereas Cobra Triangle, it's kind of the opposite of your situation, Rob, where I didn't play much of that until I was an adult.
yeah, that's yeah, we were exactly opposite. But I will say that the two RC Pro-Am games are much better than both of those combined.
Well, that's fair.
That's a
the
fair
Pro-Am's pretty
assessment.
good. Yeah. Okay.
But of course,
Also, Kate posted the clip of my eternal shame if anyone's interested in watching. So.
thank you, Kate.
Grotesque enduring ice cream praise it. That's a good link.
I will say, as far as RC Pro-Am, though, that damn AI on the orange player, like
yeah.
almost a rubber band AI with it, that makes it much more difficult than it should be.
Huh. Watch out for old RNG if I try to beat that game in earnest.
Yeah.
Now, I do want to say that we do actually have a stream planned at some point where we're going to discuss Rare's NES games.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
We will have a lot to talk about when it comes to that.
Mhm.
I will have a lot to rant about, yes.
Well, when it comes to Cobra Triangle, sure. But
yeah, that'll be like 30 minutes at least, I'm sure.
I feel like everyone associates like Donkey Kong Country or GoldenEye or something like that with Rare, when it's like, no, they were active much longer than that.
oh yeah.
Yeah, anyway.
Hey, for me, it's all about the original Wizards and Warriors.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That's a good one.
Love that one.
Yes.
Love that one. Yep.
Probably their best one from that era, arguably.
Definitely not crazy about the sequels.
Yeah, I was going to say surprisingly generous, difficulty-wise, considering it's a Rare game.
Oh, yeah.
Infinite Continues, which
Yeah.
the sequels do not have.
Nope.
Yeah, and I was going to say, and on top of that, respawning exactly where you died with
Yes.
those infinite continues.
Yeah, no, that's almost unconscientiously generous.
Yeah, that's my point.
That doesn't sound like Rare at all. It's kind of
Right.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, outside of the boss fights, I mean, those do restart you at the beginning of the fight, but
Yeah, at least.
but that's a minor nitpick for just the general generosity in the game.
Now,
But
sorry.
you
You go ahead and finish him.
I was just going to say, but like you were saying, the Rare discussion is a discussion for another time.
Yes. Although we will be talking about Rare one more time before we move on. I do want to ask, though, Snarb, what's your opinion on Snake Rattle and Roll?
Well, it's not a game I've ever played much of. I remember originally seeing a huge spread of it in, I think, a Nintendo Power that had a full walkthrough. It may have been another magazine. I was really enamored by that. I really wanted to play it, but I didn't own an NES. Well, years later, I actually emulated it, and I couldn't get anywhere in it. So I had known a lot about the game and the enemies and the layouts and other sort of stuff, and the slow ascent of the mountain and how it gets more and more hazardous. But I actually can't get anywhere in this game. I just don't click with it. And normally I'm okay with isometric games. I mean, I really like Landstalker and Light Crusader on the Genesis, for example. But this one, I just cannot. My brain just can't process it.
I gotta say, it's definitely a unique game. I've never played anything quite like it.
There's also kind of like momentum physics to the movement, which makes the platforming more difficult. Also,
yeah, that's one thing that kind of threw me about it when I played it.
Yeah, sometimes just like maintaining control over your snake is difficult.
Yeah, that stymied me too. And hey, Rex, welcome in.
This abominable game where the last boss is unbeatable unless you don't assume it has a normal health pool like every other video game ever.
Oh yeah, its health keeps recovering if you don't attack it really quickly, if I'm not mistaken.
Figures.
Yeah, I've never made it to that point, so I'm not familiar with that comment, I guess.
How rare of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also, hello, Rex.
Yep. So, Anyway, glad everyone made it tonight. Hope everyone's doing all right. As far as Rare is concerned, we are going to talk about one other game. And game is actually kind of a questionable term for it.
Yep.
It is Taboo, The Sixth Sense. All that has been and all that will be is here for you to know. Dare you glimpse the future? Dare you even ask? Taboo, the time machine? On Nintendo.
I always thought that was a really fucking weird thing to call it. It's like, what? Is this like a TARDIS and NES cartridge form or some bullshit?
Well, my guess is
It's
they
a
probably couldn't.
forward-flowing time machine.
Yeah.
Sorry.
They probably couldn't say the tarot card simulator on Nintendo. That's exactly what it was.
They really had to try and do their best to dodge Nintendo of America's rather draconian censorship policies, and anything that even hinged on the edge of the occult probably would have been censored. That this quote-unquote game even came out in the first place is kind of a minor miracle. A couple of the cards even have outright flat fuck nudity on them.
That's
so
true. And
I
that
don't
made
know.
it.
Yeah, the High Priestess and the Lovers, if I'm not mistaken. So how the hell those managed to get out the way they did, I really have no idea.
Also, Sharon, the Colonel Sanders from KFC actually showed up in more video games than you might think.
Yeah, that is
Yeah, KFC is like it's like its own cult in Japan, practically. Like White Castle is in New Jersey. I don't know, or In-N-Out Burger in California, kind of like that.
I'm waiting to see a Japanese movie about, like so and so go to KFC. It'd be like their version of Harold and Kumar go to White Castle.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know if stoner comedies have ever really been a thing in Japan. Probably some equivalent to it with like a comedy duo or whatever. But good point, Kate. They got by the same way Go-Go 13 sex scenes and Bionic Commando's Exploding Hitler Head did. It's weird. The censorship is arbitrary and seems to just have a few gaps in attention here and there, but I wish I could explain the formula. Some people just manage to figure it out for some reason.
It's like the main, a couple times you see the nude women in Golgo 13 got cut, even though the scene is still there.
Right.
But Hitler's head explodes and all take big glory.
And I'm convinced it's just because the censorship team never made it that far in the game.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, in the case of those games, that is likely. Hitler's near the end of Bionic Commando. Go-Go got it on fairly early, as I recall. Maybe they just didn't like the game enough to even get that far. I don't know. As for this, though, whatever cards you get are random, so maybe, no one on the censorship board got either the High Priestess or the Lovers. That's really the only explanation I have.
Yeah, or just, it's considered art, and in that case, it's not obscene nudity. I don't know.
Right. The artistic nudity bylaw.
Yeah.
That might also be the case. Yeah.
To sum up how the game, as it were, plays, you basically enter a name, birth date, and then you ask a question. I remember Kurt from Hard Gaming 101 had actually, I reviewed the game for his old classic game review archive way back when. He did the screenshots, and the question he pictured it asking was, were the designers on weed? But so you ask that, and then it says it's dealing the cards. You get the psychedelic light show, and then all the cards start coming out, and they're eventually arranged like this. And every so often, for some unexplained reason that I'm aware of, but I'm sure means something to tarot card readers out there, one of the suns changes into a skull and then back. Seems to happen at random. If I remember correctly, the packaging for this was interesting. The game actually came in a black cloth bag inside the box
Hmm.
to keep the negative energies out.
Well, their marketing team was really selling up its power, I guess. So,
And
nice.
it's like, yeah, you go find any copy of Taboo in a used store now or on eBay, ain't no sign of that black bag. Who knows what kind of evil energy it's been accumulating over the years. So, anyway, so after it deals the cards, it starts flipping them over one by one, and you get something like this. 7. Significator card. The 7 of Cups. The situation at present is daydreams and fantasies. I have no
Whatever
idea
fuck
what
that
means.
Yeah, this game might, quote unquote game, might have more value to those who actually know what the significance of all the tarot cards actually are. Me, I'm not quite that learned in this aspect of knowledge. I mostly just know the major arcana names as often being the names for like several themes and motifs in video games, like how all the bosses in House of the Dead are named after the major arcana, for example.
Wait. Sharon, you've never heard of Taboo, but you just mentioned it a couple comments ago. You're confusing me now.
That's okay. This game's pretty quote unquote game. I keep calling it a game, and like again, that's fucking generous. It's,
Yeah.
That is pretty generous, yes.
what do we call it though? Because Tool doesn't exactly seem right.
Tarot card reading
There
simulator?
is actually a
You guys
term
gonna
for
say,
that.
yeah,
There's actually-
tarot simulation.
Simulator. Okay, yeah, I can roll with that at least.
But there is a term
Yeah.
for this. Typically, it's electronic toy, is what they call it more often than not.
Oh, like a dildo. I'll show you.
Oh, God.
Sorry.
But LDP, I'm right there with you. Pretty much the extent of what I know about the tarot is from the Persona series.
Yeah, that was also a present motif from what very little I know of Persona, and sure it's shown up in a few other video games as well. I think someone made a tarot deck based on Twin Peaks. I know that Dale Cooper was the magician. I forget who everyone else was, but I thought that was pretty cool.
Interesting.
And I know someone earlier mentioned. Oh man, I am blanking right now. Oh, yeah, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. As far as
yes, right. That's right.
right. All the stands in the third major arc. I forget what they call them.
Stardust
Crusaders.
Yeah, right.
Naruto and so forth.
Yeah, all the stands were based on the major arcana.
That's more than I know about JoJo.
Yeah.
Let's see. Anyway, as far as the game is concerned, once all your cards are dealt and read, it gives you the final card's like a conclusion card. So it's like your current situation is you're going to die. No, it never says that. But what it'll give you just an answer which you can read one of 5 billion different ways. And then it cuts to your lucky numbers.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Doesn't it give you like lottery numbers or something?
It does.
Guess what? They haven't worked yet.
Nope.
I never really actually put them to the test, but it is what it is.
I want to have that happen. I play the numbers and I win the jackpot. And when they're reviewing, it's like, I want to credit my victory to Taboo of the Sixth Sense
Taboo
from
on
NES.
That would be the greatest thing ever if you could do that.
Yeah.
Aerosmith game.
Yeah, Revolution X. It's just it's a light gun game with Aerosmith. It's not really all that, off the wall.
Yeah, it plays things surprisingly straight, all things considered.
Right.
Although I guess the nominal premise is wacky enough, but
yeah, but we're not doing wacky premises this week, so
Yeah, yeah.
That's fair.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't one of the weapons in that like throwing albums?
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Because
Yeah.
music is the weapon.
Yep.
Right.
Music is the weapon.
Yeah. The 90s people.
Yes, and you fight like a whole bunch of Geordie LaForges who are led by a dominatrix.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much.
But
So
there you go, Sharon. We talked about Revolution X.
Yep. So the one thing I will say that's an absolute positive about, there's actually two things I can say. For one thing, the graphics being minimal are actually done really well.
Mm-hmm.
And two, the soundtrack is amazing. It's one of those games where it's like, I could see some of the soundtrack being used in another game somewhere.
Anybody notable work on the soundtrack?
Well, I don't believe it was Tim Fallon.
Yeah, well, that's what I was wondering when you mentioned.
That's David Wise, though, isn't it? That's Rare's major music guy, right?
Yes.
Yeah. That's what I was wondering if David Weiss might have had a hand in it.
Wouldn't surprise
I believe
me.
that is his work, and it is probably the best overall part of the game that fits pretty well with the psychedelic visuals. I will admit, the one goes like, humming terribly off key right now.
This is a game I remember renting way back when, and it's like Taboo. I wonder what that's about. Brought it home, popped it in. Oh, so you get to, it's like a Magic 8 Ball of a game.
Pretty much. Yep. Yep. But looking at Wikipedia for what it's worth, David Weiss is credited as the composer.
Well, there you go. Good. Your lucky numbers are 9, 12, 47, 15, 31, and 22. If you got these lucky numbers straight or boxed, you're a winner or a witch.
But for what it's worth, my family, growing up fairly conservative, this was one of the games that was available at the rental store that I was not allowed to rent.
Yeah, there's a friend of ours who's been on some of the round tables before. This game would have been a complete no. You're never renting that ever. Don't even look at it, kind of thing.
Right. Yeah, and that was kind of part of my upbringing.
Well, that's kind of like what happened with when my friend Bromley got Populous for the Genesis. His mom, rest in peace, she was a great lady, but she was also very, very, very conservative. And when she wanted to look at his new game and saw on the back, one of the big things listed was Play God. She's like, take it back to the store.
Yep.
She wouldn't even allow it in the house. He had to keep it in his glove compartment overnight.
Yep. But I was also the kid that gushed to my grandpa about what Ghosts and Goblins was all about, and that got me in some trouble growing up.
Oh, yeah. Same thing happened to mine and Mike's mutual friend about Ghosts and Goblins. Well, you'll find out about that when the books finally come out.
All right. There you go. Gotta get the self-promotion in there.
Yep, because they are still coming. It's all in the publisher's hands now. I will say this, though, about that whole Populous story. Here's the thing. Brawley made out better in the end, because the game he really wanted wasn't in stock the day he brought Populous. So when he went to return it, they had it in stock. So he ended up with the Revenge of Shinobi.
Hey, cool.
Hey, there you go. That's an upgrade.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
So, anyone else have anything to offer about Taboo, the time machine on Nintendo?
I still feel like with that line they were wanting to throw fortune telling or something in there, and the censors probably nixed that.
Oh yeah.
It's a weird curiosity of a cartridge, but I don't know if anyone who actually does believe in tarot has ever actually used this game seriously for its intended purpose, but I just think it's a fun dick around simulator with neat visuals and sounds. That's it, that's something if nothing else. I will say this though, from what little I do know of the tarot, the death card is apparently not actually always all that bad. It's the tower that's the shitty one. Watch out for the tower. That means fuck everything. If I'm not mistaken. So goes my limited understanding. Anyone who knows more can correct me or whatever. But
What about the fluffy bunny card?
that exists. I don't think that exists.
But
I just
no,
made a Simpsons reference and Mike didn't get it.
Oh, here, Esquilax.
Yeah, well, that was when Lisa went to the fortune teller's tent and she's doing the cards and she's, oh no, the death card. Oh no, that's good.
That's good.
Yeah,
it's like I remember now. Right?
Oh, the fluffy bunny card. Oh, or was it the squirrel? I think something like that.
Something cute. Yeah.
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 But no, I kind of echo that sentiment. Someone who's actually versed in tarot reading, I wonder how more or less accurate the reading is from the game.
Yeah, definitely.
It'd be interesting to find out.
That's a good question, actually.
Yeah.
All right, everyone's homework. Find someone who knows anything about tarot and go ahead and ask them to do a reading with the game.
Homework sucks.
Bonus points. Thank you, Beavis. Bonus points if you can do it with an original game that's still wrapped in the black cloth. That way it absorbed all those negative energies.
The negative energies, yes, of course.
Oh, wow. That'd be crazy.
What about you, Snarb?
I've never played this one, and I'm not big on tarot either, so I have not much to really say.
All right, so let's move away from the NES onto the Genesis. And now we're going to talk about probably one of the most unique games I'd played for the Genesis in a long time. We covered it on Dyer and Betty some time back. That game would be Haunting, starring Poltergeist.
Yes.
That game is trippy. In a great way.
It's also very hard.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that is true. And Sharon, I prefer Marble Madness over Super Monkey Ball. But that's me. But yeah. Haunting. It's like you play this, skateboarding kind of punk kid who, well, he's dead for one thing, Kate. That's why he's green.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You play a ghost. Ghost of this kid who was hit by the car of some douchebag, some rich schmuck. And
The Sardinis.
that's them. So you follow them back to their house and you possess different items and try and scare them the crap out of there. So now, Snarp, you sound like you do know a bit more about this one. And it has been a while since I played it.
This is one of those games I rented all the time. And this was also one of the first games I emulated just to see the ending. So yes, I have played this one a lot. And it's very fun. I think there's only one other game in existence that's attempted to do sort of a haunting simulator, but yeah, you basically try to track down the various members of the Sardini family in their huge mansion-like homes, and then scare them out. But of course, they always get away before you can really enact your events, so you have to keep following them and following them. There is a final house, and then there's a twist ending involving one of the family members that I won't mention just yet, or at all, really. But yeah, you track them down in the house, you possess items, and depending on the items, they have different effects. And some of them work better on some family members than others. So there's a bit of strategy there. If they're in a specific room, you want to maybe target the bed or something. That might scare the little sister more, or the guitar, which might scare the mom more, that kind of thing. Yep, there you go. There's the mom. And if you really scare them, if you're really fast and really good, you can actually scare them pretty much immediately. The goal is to actually kind of herd them until they get to a room with like an exit. Like it can be like, as you can see there, for some reason that bedroom has just an exit door, but usually it's a kitchen or the opening hallway or the living room or something like that. And yes, Brandon, this was exclusive to the Sega Genesis. It's actually an Electronic Arts game back when they kind of were. EA is where they always have that era where they make really bad games and then they kind of experiment a little bit and make good games, and that's been true since at least the 90s.
I was going to say back before they were evil.
Yeah.
No, this is about the time they were evil, I believe, or starting to be.
Okay.
And Logan, you must have missed that video. We did actually play this once, and she liked it.
It's definitely a unique premise for a game.
Oh yeah. And I had never really played it before I did it for the video, and when I did, I had some fun with it.
And what are my thoughts with the game is like, it's not necessarily a licensed game, but it's like this is what Beetlejuice should have been.
Yes.
Yes.
The character even looks kind of like Beetlejuice, just a little bit.
Yeah.
Speaking of rare games, oh.
right.
Hey, Beetlejuice sequel coming out soon.
Yeah, the first teaser just dropped recently.
I did it. I haven't seen that yet.
It's only about a minute or so.
It does not go Hawaiian, though.
No, this movie does not go Hawaiian, Snarb. For better or worse.
Must we go Hawaiian? No. The answer is no. And Brandon, yes, I have heard of Erebus Supersonic, but I've never played it.
Yeah, I know it's by Koei. I don't know much beyond that. But
I'm guessing Airport Simulator.
Yeah, I believe that is pretty much it. And I think it's less inscrutable than their, medieval Three Kingdoms or Nobunaga games or whatever. So
Nobunaga's Ambition or Romance of the Three Kingdoms.
Or Genghis Khan or whatever they've done.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep, those two. Mm-hmm.
Can't think of anything that Koei did that wasn't strategy related.
That's pretty much what they were back in the day until they did ECMO years later.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Yeah, that was their thing. I mean, if you were into that, they, almost had a monopoly on that genre, I guess you could call it.
Logan, that guy will laugh out of me. Terrible, but yeah. Go
but
you.
If it makes you feel better, he's not even in this one.
Yeah.
Either Gina Davis or Jeffrey Jones. So.
Well, I mean, probably for the best, Jeffrey Jones probably not in anything nowadays, but yeah. Anyway, so Haunting, starring Poltergeist, Snarb, as you were saying.
So there is sort of a time limit. You have a health bar, and that's your ectoplasm meter. And the goal is, if you can't get them out of the house, sometimes you actually don't want to do that immediately. You want to actually scare them a little bit so that they move around the house, because every time you do that, it drops ectoplasm. Now, whenever you're in a room that doesn't have a family member, it drains very quickly. But once you're in a room with them, it doesn't drain at all. And that ectoplasm meter also doubles as sort of your scare meter or your haunting meter, whatever you want to call it, because all items require some amount of ectoplasm. The scarier ones require more, and the ones that are a little bit tamer don't. And some of the scares in this game are really intense. Like, there's ones where, a body will come out of the closet and shamble around, and sometimes you can control what actually happens too, and then it'll fall into a gore pile or something like that. Other times you can take control of a toy airplane and fly it around and shoot missiles at the family members. Sometimes it's just stuff like, it's the shower, so of course it's going to be full of blood, or something like that. Or there's someone in there and then they get their head cut off. You can see it through the steam or the smoke. It's surprising what they actually got away with in terms of sort of the violence factor in this one. I mean, it's just a hallucination or a haunting, but even so.
Zarb, though, it has to be said, Genesis does.
What Nintendo don't.
Yeah.
Nintendo would not have fucking allowed this before.
Oh, no
way.
No,
so,
not at all.
This actually shows you, this is the map screen that shows you where the family members are. I don't know what those numbers at top mean. I can't remember what that means. Maybe that's overall the scaredness factor. But you can also tell how scared the family members are just by looking at their portraits. Obviously, the mom and the daughter are very horrifically scared right now, to the point that you could possibly get them out of the house with a little bit more effort.
And Vito just looks like one of those, I'm rich, nothing scares me.
I think the parents are slightly easier to scare. I think that maybe the daughter's the easiest to scare, but it's kind of interesting how they have different personalities in terms of, where they'll go and what sort of things will scare them. It's almost kind of like a prototype for The Sims in a weird way, but not quite. It's not that sophisticated. And as noted, you do have a health meter. If that drains, you get sent to these sort of is it called The Immortal? I believe it's The Immortal, which EA also published. You go to a dungeon that looks like it's straight out of that, and your goal is to collect as much ectoplasm as you can. And you also do that in between stages, too, to help stock up or bone up, so to speak, for the next level. I forget how many houses there are total. I think there's 4. And there's also another member of the household that you don't normally see. It's a dog, and you really have to get out of there because it really hurts you for some reason.
Dogs can sense spirits, I guess.
Yeah. I think there's another ghost or something that also can show up that also really wrecks your crap. So you definitely don't want to hover around in a room without a family member. There's some strategy involved. It's very interesting.
Yeah, it's I'm actually sorry I slept on it for as long as I did.
Mm-hmm.
So it's nothing that I want to go ahead and buy. I'm basically done with that, but I can play it otherwise. So so I'll continue to do so. So anyway, Mike.
Yeah, The Haunting, from what I have played of it, I mostly quite liked it. It's a very novel premise, and it's worth it just to see all the crazy shit you can do to the Sardines. It's just that's not unlike another game I think we'll be discussing tonight. Just pressing a button, seeing what happens is really 90% of the game's fun, so to speak. Just all the neat graphics made around all the different scares that you can inflict on these jerks. It's pretty damn great. I admit I am less enamored whenever you run out and you have to do dungeon time. Those segments honestly kind of suck. I hate to say it, but at least unless I just didn't get the knack for them. I don't know, Snarb. Your opinion on those bits?
They're pretty hard, and if you really mess up on them, then you can permanently die. And I can't remember if there's a password system in this game. I think there is, but it might keep track of your various stats, so you kind of have to be careful with that. It's one of those games.
I see.
They're okay. They're okay as a bonus segment. If you want to pick up a little bit of extra health before you get to the next house, it's okay. But I think even those start to put hazards in there that'll drain your goo, so you might even be able to die before you get to the next level.
Dang.
It's been a while though.
Yeah, that and as I recall, there is a final boss that is more, action based than kind of the rest of the gameplay in the entirety of the game.
Yes. It's kind of weird. You teleport back to the dungeon, and as noted, the dog is actually the villain in this game. It transforms into this really hideous sort of thing, and you have to throw smoke bombs at it or just cherry bombs or something. I'm not sure why. It's very strange and kind of I think they just wanted to say, well, if it's a video game, it's got to have a final boss. So
right. Mm-hmm.
It's weird and pissed off, whatever it is.
but yeah, and I was going to say, and that fight is surprisingly difficult too.
Yeah, it's really hard. I've only beaten it using save states in an emulator.
Yeah,
that's pretty bad.
Right, so the difficulty curve does get kind of wonky later on, so I understand, but at least just dicking around is worth the price of admission for this game.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
Nice.
Yeah, just wandering around and seeing the different things that you're able to do to try to scare the family is worth checking out.
Sweet.
So any final thoughts on this one before we move on? Anyone?
Play it any way you can.
Yeah, pretty much. I think it's one of those games that goes for a pretty penny nowadays, if I had to guess.
Wouldn't surprise me.
Because they always do.
Yeah, right.
How about you, Mike?
Yeah, it's definitely a Funyun. It's also 90s as heck. Poltergeist himself is he's the literal ghost of the 90s. That's the way. All he just needs are some rad shades to totally finish the look off.
Pretty much, yeah.
But
since,
edgelord skater kid.
yeah.
Yeah.
But since it's basically about, pushing buttons and seeing what happens. That actually gives us a nice segue into our next game.
Yay!
This is the one I've been looking forward to talking to.
Yay! Yes, me too.
For the Sega CD, another game which isn't quite a game, but at the same time has an end goal. So it's not like Taboo where you're just asking questions and watching the cards. You have to interact with stuff. You can lose, and it is possible to go ahead and finish it as well. That game would be Panic, aka Switch in Japan.
So I say not to necessarily slam the Sega CD, but especially considering a lot of the FMV games, isn't that kind of true? Where the game aspect of it is somewhat questionable.
Yeah. I actually did a comparison between that and the TurboGrafx CD. It seems like NEC and Hudson were more concerned with making games, whereas Sega was more concerned with, multimedia.
Multimedia, right. Yes, everyone's favorite.
Yes.
Right.
And there are definitely some good games on the Sega CD, Panic being one of them.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
But you're right, there was a lot of FMV Drek.
Mm-hmm. So gay.
Yeah, and whoever started this recent Night Trap revival from a couple of years ago, what were you people smoking? This game was not good.
Sometimes irony tends to walk a farther mile than it should be allowed to. I don't know.
I'd like to irony the hell out of the game with a baseball bat.
Higher irony. Yeah, that's why we got like 2 Bubsy revivals or something like that.
I was going to say I consider their sins go much further than this, but I want to say Limited Run Games is at least partly responsible with their re-release of like Night Trap and Double Switch and things like that on Switch.
Didn't they also re-release stuff like Bill and Ted's Excellent Video Game Adventure?
They did, and yeah, like Kate said, Plumbers Don't Wear Ties is another recent release by them.
Jesus, you sure about that, Kate? Tread lightly if you do. I'll warn you.
just why?
I mean, I am all for game preservation. I don't think any game should ever truly perish from the here. Yeah. But can't they re-release Little Samson or something that's actually good before concentrating on this irony-boosted bullshit? I don't know.
That would be nice.
I mean, Euphoria got a sequel here recently.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That was good.
A sequel?
Yeah, a sequel.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, yes.
Yeah, Euphoria or Hebereke 2.
Wow.
Crazy, but it actually happened.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yep, the Saga 2 on, various systems. Wow.
Yeah. So, Panic. Yeah, let's talk about Panic. You play
Now, this isn't Panic at the Disco, right?
No, this predates that.
Not quite, yeah.
Not like that, Panic. Sam, I am.
Someone give him the duck, please.
You know what? I might as well. There we go. I'm being a music snob tonight. It's my hat.
Well,
praise be the Church of Bubsy.
And yes, it did, Brandon. It did.
Mm-hmm. It did indeed.
Yes.
Which is one of those weird things where it's like you can get yourself at least a loose copy of the original game, probably even a complete in box for like what they were wanting for the re-release price.
Yeah. And
it's of all games, why that one?
Yeah, I remember when Eugene streamed that, and that was just like, it's as bad as I remember.
Yep.
And I could possibly go wrong.
Oh boy. and Sharon, I find Taboo to be just one step above actually playing cards. I hate playing actual card games, and the only reason for that is because of the soundtracks. The soundtrack of Taboo, it makes it worth that much more to me. But yeah,
I never knew you were never that big on cards. Actually,
I was in the hospital once. I had a roommate, and he wanted to know if I wanted to play cards. And I was bored out of my skull at the time. I was like, no, I think I'll just keep being bored.
Ouch!
Ouch!
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
But no, I was going to mention Pictionary on NES. That's another game that you only play for the soundtrack.
Oh,
Pretty
hey,
much,
the
yes.
classic exhibition of the Fallen effect. The classic.
Exactly.
All right, so getting away from all that again. Panic. I've been waiting to talk about this one. So basically, the whole thing is that machines have started malfunctioning all over the world. And they're doing weird stuff, like puking up green slime and things like that. So you play these two characters, Slap and Stick. Get it?
Ah.
Now, Slap is the little kid in the pink that's on the screen here looking at the Mega CD startup, which actually survived intact into the Sega CD version.
Nice.
And Stick is the gray dog that sometimes you play as. You'll alternate back and forth. Sometimes you'll find him, you'll travel together. Other times, it'll just be one or the other. And basically what happens is when you first enter a screen, you're presented with whatever's going on, and it can be just something completely bizarre, like, oh, I don't know, say this.
Yep.
Yeah, no one expects to see that. And then you'll get a little square will appear, or a rectangle or something with a whole bunch of switches on it. And whenever you press one of those switches, something happens. Either you get transported away to the next screen. You might trigger some kind of a weird cutscene where I remember the first time I saw one of those, it was a hippo on what looked like bamboo stilts. And it says along the lines of, "Didn't you know that Cleopatra wasn't the only queen of the Nile?" It's like, wait, what? Right. And there's this little angel and this little devil that appear too. So, other than that, there's sight gags. Like, say, with the pig here, for example, its head will pop off and turn into a balloon and float away. And the kid will just Slap, he'll just stand there looking completely dumbfounded. Like, what just happened?
Right?
And there's a few other ones that are kind of not safe for work, too. Like, he finds himself in front of a bunch of potions, and he drinks one, and all of a sudden he grows breasts all over his body.
Yep, on his head and whatnot.
Yep.
There's another one where Stick the dog can also grow tits.
Yes. I know some of my favorites were, it's like you're waiting at a bus stop in the middle of the desert. And you press one of the switches, all of a sudden the shooting star comes down, lands in front of you. It opens its mouth and it goes, bleh, and its tongue comes out and just, and then after you don't get on, it just, folds its tongue back up and flies away. Sometimes you're just left looking, he'll sit there and he'll be like, and other times he's like, huh? It's just his expressions vary quite a bit. One of the earliest gags is you get on board an elevator. And when you press the wrong switch, all of a sudden the top and bottom of the elevator come together and just slam you and crush you.
Yep.
And you just kind of flutter down like a piece of paper after that. Or a whole bunch of Japanese salarymen get off the elevator and trample you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And, just weird stuff like that.
Yeah. I remember one area being the Mona Lisa, where the Lisa in question can transform into Medusa and actually petrify Slap. One also has her transform into a werewolf, and one is extremely not safe for work.
Yeah.
I'm just... Involving a mountain climber, I'll just leave it at that.
Now, there are booby trap switches, too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yes.
This is how you can actually lose the game. You hit too many of these booby trap switches, and what'll happen is you'll destroy like national monuments all over the world and stuff. But even then, there's still a sense of humor. For example, you're outside what looks like Buckingham Palace or something like that, and when you see that coming, you're like, "Oh no, I'm going to destroy Buckingham Palace!" And all of a sudden, the little doghouse in the yard explodes, and then it comes, "You blew up Spot's house." But to
Yes,
give you an idea what your average kind of Switch screen looks like here when the buttons come up. There you go. So you just move your pointer over one of the buttons and choose one, and then watch what happens.
Hope for the best.
Yep. If you're lucky, you'll just get teleported away. Because the further down you go, you're trying to get to the world's computer or something like that, and deactivate it or return it to normal. Which, when it does, it transforms into like a giant golden Buddha that gives you an OK sign.
Yep, that is indeed how the game ends, if you can get there.
Yep. But if you press the wrong switch it isn't booby trapped, then you might get something like this that happens. And yes, that is exactly what you think it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's a butt.
It's funny, too, because when it comes up from over the horizon, it just kind of wiggles a little bit. And the cloud goes up, and Slap turns toward the camera, holds his nose, and closes his eyes. He's like, ugh.
Yeah, this game is very full of juvenilia, which is part of why it's kind of great. One of my favorites I remember is when Slap's out in a boat, and one of the buttons transforms the boat into a giant otter that bops him on the head with a seashell. It's pretty cute, also.
You encounter the slime monster at one point.
Oh, yes.
And if you zap him, sometimes he'll turn into, explode, and all the little pieces that he left behind will turn into their own little miniature slime monsters and start chasing them, Slap around. One of the most... go ahead.
And true to Japanese oddities that seem to transgress into several games, this game has a lot of Moai heads in it.
It does.
You'd think it was practically a Gradius spin-off.
Well, they act like the Monty Python feet, though. They just kind of come down and slam on top of you.
That is true, yes.
Another one that got me the first time I saw it, you end up in an art museum, and in front of you is the Thinker. Press a switch, and a chain comes down from the ceiling. He grabs it, pulls it, you hear a flush, and he gets up and walks away.
Yep.
Yeah, we know what he was thinking about. So it's funny. Now, granted, if you've played through it a couple times, you start expecting some of the jokes, and it's you can actually write down which switch is which. I don't think it changes every time you play a different game.
Yeah, there is sort of an actual, I guess, invisible map that you can sketch out, I guess, seeing what switch goes to where. Frequently in, around the sort of... There's, even a giant grid that I think you can even look at, at the end of the game, what's linked to what now. And, I think around, the early middle stages, it is rather common to hit a switch that actually kind of sends you back a tier, so
yes.
There are some screens you will probably get stuck on for quite a bit, and that's just kind of figuring out the process, so to speak.
I hate seeing the elevators show up all the time.
Yeah, that's one of the earliest ones that you can get hung up on. If I do have to chide this game for anything, when you're actually trying to get to the end, there might be some redundancies, and some places become more tired than others. So,
yeah.
But it does really feel rather enlightening to finally end up on a new screen if you can get to there. I mean, there are probably several that even I haven't gotten upon myself.
I know
there is a channel. There is a channel on YouTube called Retro Grand Prix that has every single gag in the game. That's also, I guess, sort of essentially a bit of a walkthrough in a way. So if you want to see all the crazy shit that happens without actually playing the game, you could go there. But if you can also manage to play the game itself just to keep some of the surprise intact, then do that too.
And also, Kate, that actually wasn't a loud bang. My apologies. I accidentally hit the mic with my hand.
These things happen. $8.
Yep, exactly. So, Jim, did you ever get to play
Yeah.
this at all?
I never have. And actually, just like since you mentioned it, I mean, I looked up some gameplay, which I believe is actually what Mike was mentioning there, as far as just kind of a collection of the different scenes in the game, and just kind of clicked through a few of those, and yeah, it's some of it feels like very Monty Python, as far as
Yes.
as far as the weird things that can happen.
Definitely.
Again, I think the fun in it is, not necessarily like choosing your ideal path through the game. Is just seeing what other kind of crazy random shit you're going to run into.
Yes, it is basically a fuck around and find out simulator.
Yeah.
I guess it's what the kids say nowadays, but yeah.
Actually, it just makes me think that it's the Hamsar of video games.
It is basically just one sequitur to the other. That's actually a pretty good way of putting it.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
How about you, Snarb?
I think I've seen that exact video that Mike was mentioning, and my favorite detail is that almost every screen in the game has a button that if you press it, something will vomit or fart, and it just
Yep.
the
Yeah,
commitment
this
to
is
the
true.
bit is very good.
Yeah, oh yeah, and every time it vomits, it makes the same sound like.
Yes.
Yeah. I was going to mention that there's a surprising amount of things in the game that will just puke based on the button that you press.
Yeah.
Very multicolored barf, every color you could ask for.
Yeah.
You just watch the opening. You can even see some of that there.
Yeah, that too.
It's a bizarre little opening, too.
Yep.
Yeah, but a jukebox that will puke, a copy machine that will puke. I mean, yeah, the list just goes on and on.
Yeah, an old-timey film projector camera, I believe.
Mhm.
I know that in the later stages, Slap eventually just kind of gets annoyed whenever something pukes. He's like, "Oh, I haven't seen that one before." And he makes kind of a like a not a rather annoyed expression. He also gets annoyed at this dumb genie that keeps popping up and
Yeah, the
flying
genie.
around everywhere.
Yeah, but it becomes just kind of this again.
Yeah, I do kind of like how he echoes that. Annoyingly, however, there are, I think 3 possible areas you can go where one of Slap's family members actually gets annoyed and turns off the game, and it's an actual game over, and you have to start from the very beginning. So that's kind of a dick move that they have in there, but it is what it is.
That is somewhat meta, though. That's pretty funny.
Now,
Yeah, at least.
Zafiro asked a really good question. Now, are there any games you think you can't label as oddities because their oddness is serving a narrative purpose?
Huh.
This is something I'd have to give a lot of thought to, so I don't think I have an answer for that right now. How about you guys?
Right. Yeah, I would have to think more about that.
In terms of do we just mean something that's off kilter? Because I feel like Silent Hill has a lot of weird stuff in it, but it kind of serves the narrative. So it kind of it kind of ties in with that. A lot of horror games, in fact, are very. If you're not scared by them all, they're just very absurd.
Yeah.
So I would say horror's maybe a genre like that.
I was going to say, kind of along that lines, I'm thinking of Eternal Darkness, Sanity's Requiem on GameCube.
Yes.
That has a bunch of things that are meant just to kind of mess with you, but yeah, it's the perspective of your character like losing their sanity. So what some of the things that you start to experience in game is just literally because your character's kind of tripping out.
Maybe Illbleed on the Dreamcast too.
I was, for a more modern example, maybe thinking favorite of Rob's and mine, El Shaddai.
Oh yes. When you play
That game is very deliberately bizarre, I feel.
How does Sam put it all the time that you play a Transformer riding a Tron light cycle fighting a Decepticon in Midgar? Or something like that?
Yeah, actually, I was really shocked when the game got to that point. Like, this is the last thing I was expecting, and would have otherwise been how long does this game take place ago? And now suddenly we're in like future world. What the fuck?
Yeah, pretty much. But But nothing beats the flan. I'm sorry, the Nephilim.
Yes.
Where you're jumping around on music theory.
Oh yeah. Sorry, my
I
cough's
love that stage. So anyway, all right, we're gonna stick with Sega for one more console, and then we'll move on from there. So yeah, that's Panic. I think if you've never played it before, you should definitely give it a shot. If you have played it, well, you played it, so you know what it's like.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
But moving on to the Dreamcast. Now, I personally never played this game, but I'm fully aware of its reputation. Anyone have any guesses out there?
I can only think of one, and that's a certain aquatic simulator, or rather, aquatic life simulator that is narrated by, oh gosh, what is Leonard Nimoy? May he rest in peace.
Yes.
Right. Yep.
I would say
that's exactly it.
Yes, we're talking about Seaman.
Idle. They knew what they were doing when they called it what they called it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I don't even pretend to understand this game. It would help if I actually had a chance to play it with the. I think, don't you have a microphone that you have to use with it?
Yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's a big part of the gameplay. Yep.
You talk to Seaman, and then he tells you to go fuck yourself or whatever he does. Apparently, he's very.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
That's not too far off the beaten path. No.
Yeah.
One thing I do remember, the ads for this game were like you'd see like a picture of a bed, and there's a pair of human feet sticking out from the blanket at the bottom, and a fishtail right next to it.
Mm-hmm.
Does that imply something?
Yes, it does.
Jesus fucking Christ!
I'm sure it does.
So basically, this game is the result of Troy McClure, as per the rumors go.
Yes. This is like a perfect game for Troy McClure.
Wow. I can't believe I came up with that reference.
Well, Kate called it earlier, so.
Yeah, that's fair.
But, I mean, that's probably the most disturbing ad I'd ever seen Sega place.
Yeah, no, that's pretty terrible.
Kind of prefer their ads from the Saturn era. Like the big 2-page spread with a blonde, heavily airbrushed centerfold. And all her parts are covered up by screenshots. And the caption is up along the lines. Yes, Kate's got it. But on that ad, it says, in case you didn't notice, there's a hot naked woman on this page. You probably didn't notice because you're too busy staring at Sega Saturn screens or something like that.
Essentially, yeah.
Well, she's so airbrushed, she might as well be, graffitied on a subway car somewhere. But no, back to Seaman, though. It's, it is. That's pretty much all I can say about it because I have no first-hand knowledge otherwise.
It is, yes.
Hello, I'm Leonard Nimoy. How did they get him to do that? That's my question.
Right.
Well, because he's not Spock. I don't know. I don't have a good answer for that.
Well, my work here is done. What do you mean your work is done? You didn't do anything. Didn't I? All right. Simpsons reference out of the way. Go ahead, Mike.
Well, hot twist. I actually did play this one. Although it has been a very, very long time. I haven't since I was, whenever this game came out, Christ, how old was I? Not very. Probably too young to be actually playing this one, all things considered. I probably knew something was wrong there, but, I do have vague, memories of being weirded out yet kind of fascinated by it. And I remember that when I gave my birthday to the Z-Man in question, he denoted that I shared it with Jennifer Aniston, although I can't remember if that was a favorable comparison or not. But yeah, I mean, it is like how I guess like the Tamagotchi was a thing
Oh God,
that was popular around this time, like the whole virtual pet thing. That's a very odd cultural bubble from the late '90s and early 2000s. That I'm not sure that's as much of a thing nowadays, is it? I don't know.
please stop feeding me.
Wait a second, man. You can't even take care of your own virtual pet. But, well, for as long as I played the game, I don't think he died. So I at least did my best to, like, feed it, just check up on it each day, just converse with it, take whatever its weirdo insults were. And I think I even managed to, if you roll with it long enough, he actually goes from being a fish actually into a more amphibious form. Mm-hmm. And I actually managed to get him up to an amphibious state as far as I remember, although I think he was only... Yes, exactly. But I think you can't actually beat the game. Like, there is a definitive goal if you get far enough in developing it. Unfortunately, I didn't get up to that point, so I can't log this one as having been beaten. But I remember it was an interesting, if not very deliberately weird experience, and it pretty much exists primarily to be weird and off-putting, and I don't know how they scored Leonard Nimoy for this either, but it is a very, very odd touchstone of Sega's history that, even though my memories are poor, I can't affirm I have actually played this, and I remember having fun for what it was worth. It's also probably a real bitch to emulate nowadays, unless, the microphone technology is also included with that. So I don't know how easy it is to actually play this one, relatively speaking, nowadays. So, also, it got a sequel for the PS2. I unfortunately have never touched that at all, but that actually evolves the Seaman into being a Homo sapien if you get far enough, if I'm not mistaken. That one becomes a bit more like a god game, strangely enough. It's like it kind of really escalates from the humble little fish tank from the first game, but unfortunately I don't know too much about it.
I had no idea a PS2 game even existed.
Yeah, no, it got a sequel. Legit.
Here.
There's not much info on it, but it has a Wikipedia page, so.
I'm looking into that now. Yeah, I didn't know that there was a sequel either. Yeah.
Hey, wow, I dropped a knowledge bomb. I don't usually do that.
Yeah,
son of a bitch.
I'm surprised. Mike, that really says something. You're dropping knowledge bombs tonight. At least a knowledge bomb. You know what that gets you?
What's that? Why, thank you. Much obliged.
So...
You know what, I'll give myself a quack, too, just because I like the quack.
Alright, so, Snarb, do you have anything to say about Seaman?
That website no longer...
always curious about, but I never actually got to play, sadly. I remember watching a playthrough at some point that someone was doing. They were trying to figure out the game. Apparently, it's actually really hard to get them to hatch at first. It's really actually easy to kill your the eggs or whatever. And then once you figure that out, the rest of the game is gravy. As for whether it can be emulated or not, there's a few different Dreamcast emulators at this point. One of them might emulate the microphone feature. I'll have to look into that.
I'd be very interested in knowing.
Well, I guess I didn't totally suck if I managed to get it out of the hatching phase. So, go me.
Yeah, actually.
Hatch, stupid.
Because I think you have to properly adjust the temperature of the tank and a few other variables to get it to hatch.
That sounds right.
Yeah, it makes sense for that kind of game.
Mm-hmm.
And what about you, Jim?
Well, I have never played this one either. I mean, like you, aware of its reputation. It's going to say, love him or hate him, angry video game nerd. I think the Seaman episode was one of his best, and perfectly encapsulates about all there is to say about the game. So, but
I think I remember seeing that one, and it's been a long time.
right.
So yeah, Seaman, everybody. Seaman.
Yeah.
Also, one more thing to obligatorily mention: Jeff Kramer, Seaman's rather stoic and snarky voice actor, would go on many years later to voice beloved cult detective Francis York Morgan from Deadly Premonition. So I think it is obligatory to mention that, because I don't know if there are any Deadly Premonition fans in the chat, but I know that one has quite a following, and it is a very kooky and bizarre game itself. So,
Well, that said, let's move up a generation to the PS2. And now we're going to get to one that I have played quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone knows the theme song by now, at least they should. So, we're going to talk about Katamari Damacy.
I should, yes.
As you can see, here is LED toilet roll paper head guy. I mean, the king of all cosmos.
The king of all the cosmos, yes.
Yep.
Which I was considering for my avatar, but didn't want to hog all the screen space.
Yeah.
He big. He very big.
Yes.
Very big. He is very big, and the prince is very small.
Yes.
Yep.
Almost too small.
Mm-hmm.
So, this is still from the opening. If anyone here hasn't played Katamari Damacy, or at least know of it, then you're in for something interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Cows apparently play a big role in Katamari Damacy.
Yeah, they're in every stage for some reason.
Yeah.
And
they make the funniest sound too.
Yeah. See, the whole thing, the story behind this, that the king of all the cosmos got, wacky one night. I don't know, he got drunk or what, and ended up knocking all the stars out of the sky. And he's tasked the prince to go ahead and take a Katamari to Earth, roll up as many things as he can to make new stars. And yes, there was a remaster, as I recall, the Katamari Damacy Reroll, I think it is.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
I actually own that one. Mm-hmm.
So, and here's what your basic game screen looks like. Now, you have the King of All Cosmos mask in this one, but this is early on. What you have to do is you got to go ahead and build a Katamari of a certain size before the time is up. And you can roll over the smallest things first, and then you'll get bigger. And you start rolling over bigger things. And eventually what you have to do is just, by the time you reach the end of the game, you have to roll up the whole damn planet.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much.
Yeah, the king has no regrets and is actually quite insulting.
Yeah.
It's a good Katamari, but it could be better.
Right, yeah.
Oh, and especially when you lose. And he just thunders at you.
Oh yeah, that's really scary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is
Other
not
of the
happy
year
with you
there.
whatsoever.
And all the living things do make noises in this when you roll them over and pick them up.
Yep. Including humans. Eventually you get to be large enough that you roll people up, and yes, they will scream in horror as you do so.
Love rolling up people in that. Especially you get a whole bunch of red row and they're like, ah!
Yep.
Yep. The morals of this game are rather dubious and questionable, but don't think too much about them. Just roll.
Yeah, pretty much. And you have specific goals too, like you have to build the crab star by rolling up a bunch of crabs. Or what's one of the other ones?
There's one you have to build the Cygnus constellation, I think, by rolling up a bunch of cranes.
Yes, I think that's one of them too. Those can be on the easy side, but other times they're not. And just the way that they do size in this game was, pretty amazing. They actually use the animation of the Katamari growing to change the screen size.
Right.
Yeah, really, really subtle transition.
Namco knew what they were doing.
It's just a very simple premise that kind of feeds on what I consider a almost sort of basic id feeding sort of conceit of video games, which is to grow stronger, to grow bigger. Like, not unlike gaining levels in an RPG. Like, there's just something that really gets the serotonin going about this game, where you just keep rolling over stuff and you grow bigger and bigger, and then you're able to absorb the things you weren't able to like a couple of minutes ago, because now you're that much bigger. Just that sort of... Yeah, it's sort of a power trip of a game, really. I just think that sort of simple setup about it just makes it insanely addicting to just keep on eating and consuming like some sort of unwelcome parasite. But it feels good to be bad in this case.
In a weird way, it's kind of an evolution of Pac-Man.
Somewhat, yeah. I can see that.
I mean, well, Namco made them. I can kind of see that.
Yeah.
And,
go ahead. Well, I was just going to say, it's almost, excuse me, sorry. It's almost puzzle-like in some aspects, because I feel like as you play the game and replay some of the stages, there is somewhat of a ideal pathing through them. Because, like what was mentioned, some of the larger objects will keep you kind of gated into a smaller area.
Yes.
Until your Katamari has absorbed enough things to get to a size where you can roll over those, and then you kind of gain access to a newer area. And
it's also helpful. I just say it's helpful that you actually see signs on some of these things that tell you how big you have to be.
Right. Yeah. There's actually, it says, you have to be like, 50 centimeters to pass this point or something, or 5 meters or whatever the specific stage goals are. So no, it kind of lets you know, it's like, you really probably shouldn't be in this area yet until you've grown large enough to absorb these items into your Katamari. And I was going to say, I mean, just within each stage, like Mike was saying, I mean, just the sense of progression I really enjoy.
And it sucks, though, because if you do hit too many things that are bigger than you, you'll lose things from your Katamari.
Yep. Things will fly off of your Katamari, and you can actually size down that way as well.
Yeah. If you're too reckless, you do have to you have to watch where you're going occasionally, and this game does have a little bit of a quirky control scheme, which personally I really like it. I think it really fits, but it's a little bit of a curve to learn how to use both the analog sticks in tandem.
Right, yeah, because the control scheme is essentially like the right sticks are kind of like the hands of the prince manipulating the Katamari. So it's like if you want to turn it one direction, it's like, okay, you push with the left hand and pull back with the right. So, push forward on the left hand. Well, actually, I'm not sure if that's the correct scheme, but anyway, I mean, that's kind of the idea. Is that, by pushing forward on one stick and pulling back on the other, it allows you to kind of rotate around the Katamari, and then pushing forward with both sticks is what actually gets you rolling forward in a specific direction.
Yep, and you can push in on the sticks to go ahead and jump up and get a look at the world around you.
Right, yeah. And I'd say one of the... I don't remember if it's pushing in on the sticks but anyway, it allows you to essentially jump over the Katamari and do a quick 180.
Yes.
Which is a very useful move.
Yeah.
And then, like, alternating like forward and back really fast on both sticks will cause the Katamari to spin faster, and then you can do like a dash forward.
Yep.
Which you clear a lot of ground that way, but it's also dangerous because if you slam into a wall, you're going to lose a lot of things off of your Katamari.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But now,
I'm just looking up.
Oh, go ahead, Mike.
No, I was just saying, I'm looking up this one clip offhand, and you're eating up Mahjong tiles, which cracks me up because I kind of hate Mahjong. It is an evil game. I'm a big fan of Yakuza or Like a Dragon, so of course I hate Mahjong. So it's oh yeah, this game is also incredibly Japanese. I should know.
Yes,
Japanese.
Exceedingly so. Yes,
massively, which is I think part of its charm. Like it makes no bones about that.
Well, there's even cutscenes between different parts of the game that play out essentially like clips from Ultraman.
Yeah, so this like sort of somewhat uncanny looking Japanese family remarks on the weird shit that's happening in the background.
Right.
Yeah,
It makes barely as much sense to the game itself, but it adds to the charm.
It's
quite
funny
a bit.
because the kids see it, but the mom just kind of brushes them off. You know?
Yeah, just
Yeah.
oblivious. Yeah. The little girl seems like the one who's most in tune with everything going on.
But I saw it out there. To be continued.
Yeah, and that's exactly right, Zafiro, what you said there. The king didn't even regret doing it, by the way. He just asked you to fix his mess. Yep.
And
Indeed.
assets are community sourced.
Mm-hmm.
That I've never heard about.
Yeah,
And
I'm not sure of.
I feel like also kind of the low poly look to everything adds to the charm as well.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
I mean, I'm sure it was intentional, to keep the polygon count low enough that, you can actually have the items stick to your Katamari and still have that scaling of the game world. But no, I was going to say, I think that's just part of the aesthetic that just works for the game, too.
But, speaking of which, it's like what you're seeing on screen right now is how you start off with your Katamari. But this is what you can get up to. And even bigger than that, actually.
Oh yeah, that's still a tiny Katamari, all things considered.
Yeah, it's the whole power trip thing. It's like
Mm-hmm.
we'll just play the game up on that last stage. I'm rolling around picking up volcanoes and giant tanker ships and stuff, and it's just like, you will be absorbed in that Katamari.
I'm pretty sure you can pick up kaiju later on,
Yes.
and
You
I
can.
think you even get big enough to like roll up like actual Shinto gods in the clouds.
Right.
And I forget if this was this game or the first sequel, but you can even grab the king himself.
Yeah,
if I'm
in
not mistaken.
I think it's in one of the sequels.
Yes.
Who also introduces the Queen of all Cosmos as well.
She kind of shows up in a non-speaking role.
Right.
In the original,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, she does finally talk later on because there have been several sequels to this.
Right. Mm-hmm. And another thing, there's also like sub goals within each level. The King of all Cosmos has left different presents scattered around the levels that you can roll into your Katamari, which take the form of different hats that the prince can wear.
Yep.
And then there are also cousins scattered around the world, which act as other player characters. Which, I mean, when you're rolling around, a 50-meter Katamari, you're not going to see your character anyway. But I mean, you do get to see a little portrait of them in the bottom corner of the screen. So,
yeah, and there's besides Earth, you have other locations you can go to. There's like your own home planet where you can save and do things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And there's also like with the giant mushroom where the cousins hang out.
right.
So, but then,
Another thing that I liked with the game, and I mean, it's just kind of a stupid little statistics that it throws in there too. Like, your Katamari is mostly comprised of greenery, or your Katamari is as large as 52 cars, or just weird things like that.
yeah,
Oh yeah, that's a really bonkers thing also. Every single individual item that you can pick up in this game is actually registered in like a collection list.
Right.
Like everything you can pick up at any there's probably quite a few things like off the beaten path that you probably haven't gotten to. This is probably a real nightmare for 100% completists. I know I haven't even gotten that far, but it's crazy that it keeps track of all the individual objects that there are.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I'll say when I had this game when my kids were little, they loved it. I would actually take them through the collection, and they'd be like, "That's a crab. That's a dog. That's a person." I don't know what it is.
Yeah, no, this one has a very all ages feel, despite its very bold premise, and that's great that they could get into it.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I don't know if you guys want to talk about a couple of the sequels for a couple minutes, but I don't know.
Oh, Snarb, is there anything you wanted to contribute, by the by?
Yeah, Snarb, you've been awfully quiet.
I mean, a lot of what you guys have said are just, you hit the nail on the head. I would like to add, I don't remember the original creator's name, but he wasn't originally a game designer. He actually worked in the amusement industry, I think, designing like roller coasters and other sort of park rides.
Was it Keita Takahashi?
I believe so, yes. And you can feel that sort of quality be brought over into this game because every single like screen is just a joy to just experience. Like, I really like the main menu where you're just walking around the world and kind of just vibing to like the menu theme. Like, I've just stood on that for like 30 minutes before just flying around the place and just listening to the music or, you know, watching the Katamari cousins, like, you know, walk around and do things. And it sort of like something that also might not register at this time because you sort of see these sort of quirky indie games and other sort of stuff that have this sort of same spirit all the time now, but there was nothing like this in like 2004 or so. This was such a weird, quirky breath of fresh air. It felt like something from another time, and it's really had a bigger impact on the industry than a lot of people realize. Like, a lot of the early indie designers were citing this game as their biggest influences for why they were deciding to start up and make games. And I think that's very interesting. I would say this was better than a lot of the earlier indie games that sort of it inspired, but it's just, I don't want to overstate its legacy, but it does have quite the legacy here, and I can't quite do that justice, sadly, but it's very interesting, the history behind this. Like, I think they weren't expecting it to sell at all, so they gave the guy a shoestring budget to make all of this on, too. And as Zafira was noting, the 3D models were actually made by students for their senior projects at the Digital Hollywood Game Laboratory, so that might have factored into being a low budget, you know, to work with there.
Well, and as I recall, I believe the game released at like $20, which was, you know, kind of unheard of for a PS2 title.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was a budget release.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't think they really had any faith in the game kind of going into it.
And then look what happened.
Yeah. And another thing that I wanted to say too, you know, kind of getting into that indie game thing, is before the big kind of sandbox style gameplay, I would say really took off. I mean, I wouldn't call this a pure sandbox game by any, you know, stretch, but you know, the size of the levels and kind of the free exploration that you had, I think, kind of contributed to that popularity as well.
I can see that.
Yeah, definitely. There's a very Mike tangent that I could go on here, but I'm not sure if I should.
Oh boy.
Well, I kind of see Katamari as coming out at a time in defiance of the types of games around it, because it is just so uniquely quirky and low budget, and just it gets by with a lot more cleverness than anything, creativity, and just really bonkers that something that was so low budget just you know, managed to become something of an indie success story in a way. And it was not something, it was something that was increasingly less common as sort of the AA game was becoming less of a thing around the time that this game was being released. 2004, because that's when like your Halos and your Call of Duties and whatever were starting to get on the rise, and you know, that 7th gen that I'm so fond of shitting on was around the corner, and it felt like we didn't see increasingly less and less games at least acknowledged as much as they were in the public eye after Katamari, when, you know, all the Dude Bro Doritos games started to really all pop up and whatnot. And I just felt that Katamari was I don't know if it's too dramatic to call it like a swan song for sort of like creativity over budget in games, but it did feel like kind of a very interesting sort of snapshot of a type of game that would become less common, at least released as anything but a quote-unquote indie game, so to speak. If that all makes sense, I don't know.
Yep, and also there's your Mikeism for tonight.
Yeah, so if Kate's listening, that's me miking out. I'm sure she's amused by it. I'm being used
I'm
or whatever.
speaking specifically of Dude Bro Doritos.
Yeah, yes. That's a coin I have termed quite a bit in the past, and that's just my thought of like, you know, all the Call of Duty and all the Gears of War rip-offs of the time that just really got all gritty and American and what have you. I don't know.
I just call them Moes.
Yeah, the Moes of the world, exactly. Kate just gives us. Yes, yep, that was for you, Kate.
Kale, Calvin, and Hobbes.
Kind of, sort of. Yeah, exactly. Anyway, I did get massively off tangent, but just to comment on the sequels of the game, I do think that Katamari was a fantastic idea, but it also really only sort of worked once. I think the first sequel, We Love Katamari, is, for what it's worth, pretty good, but it is absolutely a mission-packed sequel that really couldn't expand that much upon the premise of the first game, so it really just is the first but more, which is definitely not a bad thing per se, but it did already sort of feel at this point like, you know, can they keep pushing this series out? Yeah, like, what more can they really do with it? Well, what more they could really do was just keep releasing the same game, but making you pay for more of the fucking levels.
Yeah, I think the only actual innovation that I remember being added to it is I think you could jump in some of the sequels.
I see. I'm not sure if I got that far, so... Yeah, I just kind of tuned out of the series after We Love Katamari. I'll also even say that We Love Katamari, good as it is, its soundtrack wasn't as good as the first. The first one's soundtrack is just kind of unbeatable.
Yeah,
that was something that I was going to mention about the
music's
game also.
So good, yes.
Yeah, is the soundtrack is fantastic.
Totally. You all probably know one track, if not the title theme. Lonely Rolling Star, I think, got really popular for a while. Que Sera Sera, which is sung in English for some reason, and it sounds like a Pixar theme. I don't know how to put it. I really like the one track that sounds like a sort of like Latin dance track, best way to put it. Katamari Taino, I think it's called. I forget. I don't know. But anyway, there's a lot of winners on the soundtrack, and it's just so good. And yeah, no, the music never got as good as the first game, in my opinion. So,
well, yeah, I just love the. It's almost like a cappella singing of the theme when you're at the initial title screen. And then when you... Yeah, exactly.
And then it turns into like a piano piece at one point.
Yeah, but then once you launch the game, I mean, just full on fanfare with trumpets and everything. So
the title screen, it becomes the piano piece. That's right.
Yeah.
And also Zafiro, that's pretty good. The Crazy Taxi School sequel development, put in different levels and added jump. Yeah, no, that Crazy Taxi 2 was definitely not as fresh as the first one. I can agree with you. I hear 3 is better than 2, but I honestly never really played 3 all that much, I shamefully admit. So
I'm just going to say that none of the Katamari sequels ever clicked with me.
Yeah. It's for as great a game as it is, it was also just kind of a magic trick that really only worked once, which is fine. It's kind of like that thought of like, maybe it shouldn't have really been a franchise, you know? Like, I think it was more special just being the first game for what it was, but
I will say,
you know, sequels have the sequel.
I will say one thing, though.
Yo.
There is one piece of classic Namco music on the We Love Katamari sequel that was used as a trailer or it was used in a trailer, I should say, for a game that got released in 2010.
Wait, you're not saying Splatterhouse, are you?
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Holy shit, really?
Yes, Sento Nelcor.
Oh yeah, that's right. The really surprisingly dramatic ending theme from the original. Wow.
Yep. And if you watch the very first trailer that came when it was taken in-house by Namco instead of the first one that Bottle Rocket released, then yes, you can actually watch. It's all done in slow motion as that's playing. And I remember asking Dan Tover about that, and he's like, yeah, we were able to do that because we didn't need to clear the rights with anybody.
Wow, that is fucking bonkers. That's kind of amazing.
Yeah. But it worked. So, any final things to say about Katamari or any of its sequels before we move on?
One thing, almost forgot to obligatory to mention. Fuck the get the biggest cow and bear levels.
Oh,
Anyone who's played those fucking knows what I mean.
yeah, it was really a pain in the ass.
By and far the most gratuitously painful challenges in the game.
The levels that I hated, it came from one of the sequels, was a hot and cold mechanic where you had to pick up, like, I think you had to pick up cold things while avoiding anything that was hot. So it's like as soon as you ran into a fire, it'd be like immediately fail, like a campfire or something.
Oh, that sounds dreadful.
Yeah.
Shit.
Snarb, what about you?
I think I've said everything that can really be said at this point. I guess I could mention that the control scheme is actually very, very similar to how actual tank controls work, as in, the big metal machines that shoot things.
Yeah.
Because you have the two levers, essentially, and then in order to turn one way, you got to pull one back and one forward, and then the other one back and forth. Although I don't think you need to jam them both really fast back and forth to send the tank zooming, so that's fortunate, I guess.
Alas.
Yeah.
Well, with that... oh, go ahead, John.
Well, I was going to say, just one more final thought.
All right.
At this point in time, my sister was never one who was really into video games. That was just kind of something that I, as an older brother, was into, and she might watch me play, but didn't have much interest in gaming. Katamari Damacy was the first game that she really got into herself, and it's like this is fun. I like this.
Nice. Hey.
So I mean, as far as just the universal appeal of the game.
Yeah. So that just goes to show you right there.
Mm-hmm.
But now I'd like to go ahead and turn things over to Snarboo to discuss the next PS2 game and the last one on the list. A little game called Stretch Panic.
Yes. This is actually a treasure game, and part of what motivated me to actually play it and investigate it is that I had often heard it was their worst game or fans' least favorite treasure game. And I kind of get that and I kind of don't, but suffice to say, I'm very glad I gave it a chance because it's a very interesting game, and it's actually quite a good companion to Katamari Damacy because it sort of goes for a unique one of those unique twin joystick sort of control schemes, dual analogs, however you want to say it. But it works much differently. In this game, you control both Linda, who you can see here in the middle of the screen, the young lady, and then you also control her scarf, which is possessed by an evil spirit. And the way the control scheme works because of that is very interesting because you have full independent control of the hand and you can grab just about anything in the game. And depending on how you interact with it or what buttons you hit or how you move the analog sticks, you can do various things like send Linda flying, or you can propel her into enemies or any sort of other sort of things. And that's kind of the trick with this game, is just figuring out how to control it first off, because your first experience is you can't even attack any of the bosses. This is a boss rush game. So the first thing you do is you enter this door, and it takes you to this island scene that you see here. And if you pay careful attention, you can see something in the distance there that looks like two beach balls. Yes, the very first enemy you encounter in the game are known as the Benito Zacos. There are these ladies with absolutely ginormous breasts.
Uba.
And it's
Uba,
comical. It's very comical.
Very booba.
Because they're more like robots in a way. They have these blank expressions. They kind of just wander around. They can actually use their breasts to box you. They'll actually try to punch you or jump on you and crush you. And if they walk off the stage, they will actually turn their breasts into propellers and literally fly around. It's absolutely bizarre. And I think that is the biggest reason a lot of people did not give this game a chance. And I suppose that's fair. That is a very weird way to start the game. I guess there's also the fact I should note the story to the game is it's a little bit sexist. You're like one of like 13 sisters, and these gremlins basically show up and they capture them because they're very vain and all, they care about like riches or jewels or makeup or stuff like that, and then they kind of possess them with what an evil spirit possesses them and they turn into the bosses. In your case, you got lucky because only your scarf got possessed, and that's that's one of the things you're controlling. And again, so in order to get to the good parts of the game, you have to grind up points by basically killing the Benita Zacos. And the way you do it isn't by grabbing the boobs. That would be too easy. No, you pull on their hair.
Okay.
It's yes, yeah, it's pretty wild.
It's not much better, is it?
No, but once you can get past that, there's a lot of just neat little touches. Everything you can grab in the game can be squished and pulled and stretched, hence stretch panic. And from there, it's just up to you to figure out how things work. Because like you'll encounter, I think the very first boss I fought is like the sister that got turned into a weird pendulum like mosquito. I don't know how else to explain the that boss design. All of the boss designs are very whacked out, by the way. They're things you would not quite expect, and they're supposed to be the sisters that have been turned into these things. So one of the first things you encounter is like this weird pendulum mosquito, and it will like fly around and try to like smack you around the arena. And you kind of have to just slowly figure out how to damage these things, where their weak points are, where you can flick them and pinch them, and even propel yourself into them and headbutt them. And from there, like the game really sort of picks up. There's a lot of like weird tricks and quirks and strategies you can figure out. Like your character moves slowly, but if you grab the ground and then fling yourself around, you can catapult really far around. Like you can use it sort of almost to speed up your movement and do all these other really cool tricks. It's kind of a shame they didn't go for full levels with this, but at the same time, the emphasis on that and just fighting bosses with it is pretty neat. What else?
I was gonna say, because I hate boss rushes. But I may actually have to try and give this game a shot at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it's not perfect. It's one of those games that I really enjoyed just because I enjoyed how quirky it was. I can kind of see what they were going for, and I almost wonder if this was a Dreamcast game initially because it has a lot of like Dreamcast weirdness sort of like going for it. Like, and the control scheme could have translated over well enough, because it only uses like I believe the analog triggers. That's the sticks, and I think you also have to click in the sticks for a special move. You see, at certain points, you get energy for attacking, I think, the bosses, and then from there you can initiate this thing that's called, I think she just says engage, and like another scarf actually pops out, another hand, and you can grab things, and then you just spin the sticks really fast, and you basically just grind them to shreds, or you basically just pinch and flick the crap out of them, and it's really really cool. It's just it's got a lot of weird energy to it. It feels like that maybe the team behind Silhouette Mirage or Mischief Makers maybe wanted to like experiment a little more now that their dual analogs were a thing. And I don't know how else to say it. I don't want to sell too much on it. I don't want to spoil too much, but suffice to say there's a bunch of bosses. The sisters that you actually rescue are randomly generated. If you fail a boss, you get booted out, and you only lose points. You can't really game over in this game. You can die, like you see that star there, that's your health meter. And the boss has one too. And depending on how it fills up, you can tell what kind of damage you're doing, whether you're doing like major damage, that's usually red on the little star health bar thing, or it'll be blue if you're hitting an armored portion, or yellow if it's just average. So there's some strategy there figuring out, okay, what am I doing that's doing the most damage and going from there. But yeah, the sisters are randomly generated. If you get knocked out, you just lose points, which you can always gain more. I actually believe, now that I think about this, I think points are also used for your special attack, the engage mode or whatever that's called. The scarf bomb, I think, is actually what it's called. Um, I don't know. There's just a lot of charm in this game. I really like the designs. They've got this sort of thematic element that was kind of common around the end of the 2000 or the start of the 2000s, the end of the 90s, where it's kind of like creepy cute. It's very pastel, but there's a lot of things in this game that are actually really creepy. Like there's one boss where you're like in this horror, you're like in this tower in like this like horror movie basically, and the boss is like running between these doors, and you actually have to like bang on the doors to like hit it. Like you have to pick up the door and then slam it on it, or else it'll break in. And when it breaks in, there's this cutscene of this big monster like coming in and like there's just all you see is the silhouette of it, and it's like holding up like a cleaver or something, and then you just get booted out of the stage. You don't even know what happened.
Yeah,
it just
kind
of cuts fades to black.
That's pretty creepy in the original premise. I just remember there's an anime series that I know little about, but I'm somewhat familiar with the style. Snarboo, are you familiar with, if I'm pronouncing it right, Puella Magi Madoka Magica?
I have heard it, but never seen it. This is probably more absurd than that. Like, that was more of like a commentary on magical girls. You're not really a magical girl in this. You're kind of just trying to save your sisters. There's no like epic battle between good and evil in this. You're just kind of trying to purify them, and that's something else actually I didn't mention. You see, you have to actually do a specific task with the sisters. If you don't do that, the demon will just hold on to them, and you have to fight the boss battle again. That is actually annoying, is figuring out the purification thing. I think you have to fill up their damage meter with a specific sort of attack or specific kind of damage before that'll happen. And when you do, you get a special cutscene where like the little spirit or demon tries to repossess them, and then it just burns up in flames as like sunlight, shoots down on it. It's pretty cute, but if you actually... The fact that you actually have to beat the boss a specific way or actually manage to damage it properly is probably the most annoying thing about this game, and probably one of the few things that brings it down. I could see why that would have annoyed people or why they would have been confused by this. It's not a very long game. I was looking at my save file for this, and I think it's only like... I was only like a couple hours in, like 2.5 hours. It's a very, very short game. Even if you're struggling with it, I think that's another kind of thing going against it.
A long play I'm seeing here tallies up to roughly 90 minutes, so I guess
if you're really good at this and you're really quick and you can really manage to like get the strategies down, this game is not very long. There's even things I think that can help you grind up points even faster, so you don't have to do a lot of the tedious sort of, here's the big booby lady. I have to carefully walk behind her and hope she doesn't crush me to death with her massive gazungas. And then, I have to pull on her hair, because that's the unfortunate nature of this game.
Gigantic goobers.
Yes. There's also a gallery, I believe, called the Gallery of Shame, where after you beat a boss, you can actually view the boss and, like, pull on it and pinch it and stretch it and change like its texture and other stuff. It's really weird, because when I first played the game, that was the first thing I actually entered. I wasn't sure actually how to play the game or how to start things, because I tried opening the doors and nothing would happen until I noticed there was one that didn't have any points on it. But yeah, when you first pop that in, there are no bosses unlocked, so all you see are the like a bunch of Bonito Zacos. And yes, you can pull and stretch on those too if you really want to.
Oh God. So you get to be Jonathan from Police Nuts. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'll shut up forever.
Very unfortunate.
I'm so sorry. Also, to get away from that forever, I'm sorry. Sharon, Yakuza, or Like a Dragon is also known as, long story. It's a series of action RPGs where you play as an ex-Yakuza that punches his way through a bunch of crime things, but also gets to do a lot of fun stuff on the side, like all these weird side quests that involve him, like, trying to bring up a dominatrix's spirit, or, try and get pizza to some foreign woman who's in marital trouble or whatever.
Or play arcade games, right?
Yes, there are arcade games to play. The first actual one was in Yakuza 5, which was Virtua Fighter 2, and then Yakuza 0 brought in Outrun, Super Hang-On, Fantasy Zone, and Space Harrier.
Beautiful.
And they're like, you can play card games in it. You can also play Mahjong and Shogi, which are both rather inscrutable, but there's a lot of things to do in them, and like getting distracted by all the cool shit you can do is like half the appeal of them. However, while the side stories do get goofy, the Yakuza games are not traditionally like off the wall as per the games we've been discussing tonight. But I'm a huge fan of the series, so just sidebar into that.
So, Snarb, was Stretch Panic ever released in the U.S.?
Yes, actually, that's the U.S. title. For some reason, this game got 3 localizations. Gee, Bill, why does your game have 3 titles? Because in Europe, I have no clue. I think it's because each region had its own publisher. So in Europe, it's known as Freakout, and in Japan, it's known as Hippa Linda. I think Hippa meaning pull or stretch or something like that, or pinch. So it's like pinching Linda or something like that. It's the rough translation, which, that is the primary gameplay. I feel like both the US and the Japanese titles kind of capture what the game is about. But Freakout's not a bad title for it either, because it is kind of like a psychedelic Freakout in a lot of ways. Very weird, very pastel goth, if I'm using that term correctly. It's just very weird and surreal. There's a lot of really cool bosses. Some of them have really weird interactions when you attack them. Like, there's one that's kind of like your evil twin, except instead of having a scarf, she has like this weird ball and chain kind of toy that it kind of looks like a chain chomp, and she like will swing around and stuff. And then if you know where her weak point is and you like headbutt her, she'll actually vomit. It's really just grotesque and weird.
Wow.
And it's just, it's weirdly charming in a grotesque kind of way. It's like, this is weird. I don't understand it, but I appreciate it.
It sounds like a freak out, Like, they could have named it, Good Time Slim, Uncle Doobie, and the Great Frisco Freakout.
Charmingly weird. For some reason, you describe that, and I think of Invader Zim. How accurate is that?
It's definitely channeling that era of energy. Like, I don't know what it is. Like, you look at her design. Yeah. Like, you look at her design in game, and she's got, like, sort of the stick figure with the big head thing, just like Invader Zim. Like, everything has, like, a big twisted grin on it, or spiral eyes, or, like, some kooky, zany kind of thing. It's definitely very lol random, that was very common at the end of the 90s, throughout the very early 2000s. It's interesting.
Well, I gotta say, it definitely looks interesting on a whole. I'll have to see if I can play it somehow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yes. It's one that I wish I've put more time into. I haven't really touched all that much, but I do like Treasure, and this one, as a relatively lesser known outlet of their output, I think does deserve another examination. I guess, though, that it doesn't really put its best tit forward with the booby thingies. I guess that's kind of a deal breaker for some people, but yeah.
You can get past that, yes. I do find it interesting the discourse around Big Booba in game has kind of like flip-flopped over the years. I think this was the time where it's very bad, no good. But it's so comical it's very comical. It's hard to find it very erotic or arousing. It's clearly just supposed to be silly. Because I don't know.
It's more like
your mileage may vary.
I don't know. It's like, weird in the way that Robert Crumb is weird and all of his weird pervert things, sort of. Like, I don't know. Is that a poor comparison? I don't know.
No.
It's not quite Robert Crumb. Robert Crumb's more like offensive for the sake of it.
Oh, okay. My bad. Sorry. No, I think I know what you're getting at, though. This game is just much more absurdist than anything else. It really just follows more of its own path than, trying to be deliberately offensive, so...
Also, much like Katamari, this game has a fantastic soundtrack. A lot of the songs are just really good. If nothing else, if you decide this game's not for you, definitely look up the OST on YouTube. It's quite a ride.
Good idea. Well, Treasure is also really good in that department, so I have no reason to distrust that.
Yeah. Here's the question, though. Which is more obscure, Stretch Panic or Rakugaki Showtime?
Oh, gosh. Well, probably Rakugaki, because that didn't even get a US release. This did. For whatever reason, it was actually near launch. It was came out in 2000 or 2001. This was pretty close to the launch window. So I wouldn't be shocked if a lot of people might have had this game to start with, because there were slim pickings at first for the PS2.
Actually, allow me to compare Stretch Panic or Light Crusader. I'm kind of
in
targeting
terms of obscurity, or
in being lesser known Treasure titles. Which one do you think is more obscure?
Actually, probably this one. I feel like more people might know of Light Crusader, but again, it varies. One is a late Sega Genesis release, so that's kind of give or take on the obscurity spectrum. I don't know. They're both very interesting in that they're both adventurous, kind of off the cuff sort of games for Treasure, because this is kind of a genre they don't really do. Is this third person, almost kind of platformery kind of thing with boss battles. I mean, at least in this way, it actually feels also like a successor to Dynamite Headdy in a lot of ways. Because I think there are some bosses that actually look kind of like Dynamite Headdy bosses and such.
You know what? I can totally see that. It's definitely evocative of Heady's more cartoonish overall, exaggerated designs. That's a good comparison.
I've even dubbed this I have this thing I call the unofficial Toon Treasure trilogy with Dynamite Headdy, Silhouette Mirage, and this. Or the tragic comedy sort of series, because they always kind of have kind of a almost melancholy or kind of downbeat kind of thing, because here your sisters have all been captured and they've all been possessed by demons. And Dynamite Headdy, you have everything involving the puppet people being taken over by Dark Demon. And then there's just Silhouette Mirage. If you know the story of that one, you understand what's going on there.
Yeah.
Okay, then, Mike, the question for you is then, Stretch Panic or Cobra Triangle?
Fuck you. There's no basis for comparison between those two. You just wanted to hawk me off.
Yes. All right.
But
hey, I'm in charge of that horn.
All right, fine.
Anyway, anyone else?
Can I give myself another quack though?
Sure.
Okay, that's all.
All right. Does anyone else have anything they want to add about Stretch Panic?
Well, having never played it, I don't really have much to say about it.
So you're kind of the same boat I am.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
I did have a snarky offhand comment though. Despite its looks, I am very glad Stretch Panic is not a collectathon.
Well, yes.
Oh, Logan, that's terrible. God, I'm going to give you this award for that comment, if I must say so.
Yes. All right, it's getting close to midnight here. In fact, we're like a minute away from midnight. We did have a couple other games we wanted to go into, mostly modern stuff. We can skim over those real quick, but I want to call it a night soon.
Okay.
So, first one is Work Time Fun. WTF?
Cute.
I know virtually nothing about this game.
I have played it briefly on PSP, and the closest comparison that I can give to it is like the WarioWare series.
Yeah, that's pretty much the same spirit I get from it also.
Right. Where it is a more of a collection of micro games, and the thing that you do in each of the games is pretty bizarre, which to me is what throws it on the list. one of the games involves a series of ink pens that continually scroll from left to right, and you have to either orient the pen. Well, the pen is either the right orientation or it is flipped the wrong way. And as quickly as you can, you have to orient the pen the right way and then press a button to place a cap onto the pen. And then, the assembly line continues to scroll on.
Right.
Also, playing the...
Before you go on...
Go ahead.
Welcome
you're fine.
And it's okay. You're going to see more than just one game. We're going to go over a couple pretty quick here. So,
all right, Brian. Yeah. Like laments, sir.
Yes.
So
go on.
So anyway, as you play the different micro games, you earn kind of an in-game currency, which you can then spend. If I recall, it's almost a gacha-like system where you will randomly unlock other micro games and just kind of build up your library of them. And I was going to say it's just kind of a series of weird little micro games in a similar vein as WarioWare.
So would this one here be one of those?
Yep. And I was going to say, I want to say in this scene, you're counting like the number of things that move from the left to the right, while there's a bunch of other just random crap obscuring your view. So, and I believe there's actually a game that's almost identical to this in WarioWare.
Yeah, I never played.
Yeah, I think there's one that's also like it in Rhythm Heaven, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I could see that too. So.
I've never played any of these games ever.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyway, that's work time fun.
Mm-hmm.
Let's move on to the next one. I have one screenshot of this. I am bread. So I'm guessing you play as a slice of bread and you do different things.
Pretty much.
Yes. I haven't played this one, but I did watch a playthrough of it, and it works kind of like that Flash game Quap, or what was that other one? There was a climbing game that was kind of similar, where
getting over it.
The bread, yeah, each corner of the bread is a separate button, and you kind of have to like climb around to do other sort of things. I haven't played this one. I'm not quite a fan of the style of like mimetic sim games, meme sims, or whatever you want to call it. But it's interesting. And Kate says that the game I'm thinking of is GURP.
Oh, okay.
The climbing game.
Oh, I might have heard of that one too. Go ahead, Jim.
Well, I was going to say, yeah, it's pretty much exactly as you described. Each of the shoulder buttons controls one corner of the bread, and you essentially just kind of flip end over end or try to shimmy along if you can manage to keep yourself upright. And the goal is to get from wherever you are to a toaster at the end of the level, and doing so by avoiding falling onto the ground or just otherwise getting your bread too dirty or disgusting to be edible.
Yeah. No 5-second rule here, huh?
Yeah, pretty much.
I have a very cynical treatment to describe I Am Bread, and I apologize if this is a little overly bitter, if I'm allowed to. I don't know if I should.
Well, the last time you went up about the Dubro Doritos, so let's see if we get another Mikeism at you.
This game feels like it was designed strictly for YouTubers to give stupid reactions to. I don't know. Is that an overly cynical way of putting it?
Yeah. I think that's kind of what you meant by the mimetic approach.
Yeah, the meme sim.
Yeah.
There is a term for those games. Yeah. It's known as YouTube bait, or was it tuber bait? Something. There's some sort of term for it.
Tuber boober.
Yes, it is one of those things where it's one of those games where you might play it, you might own it, you might like it, but you're probably have only really seen it because some guy with a yelling, screaming face is going like, "Oh my god, this bread!" or something.
Yeah, no, that's kind of
like that's all you see on YouTube.
Yeah, like I actually just typed "I Am Bread" into YouTube, and And it was just all, YouTubers with dumb faces. I actually had to type in full game no commentary to get a more honest playthrough of the damn thing.
Right.
So yeah, I'm sorry. I think as the night goes on, I'm getting crankier. So
More and more cynical.
yeah, I'm sorry. That's maybe a little.
I,
Although, to wit, this game was made by the guys who did Surgeon Simulator, so, they know what they're doing, for better or worse.
I have no real opinion either way.
I figured you wouldn't, sir.
So, that said, let's move on to the next one, which also may have been designed to be one of these, you streamer baits or whatnot at first, but, I don't know, Betty's played it and she likes it.
Yes.
Goat Simulator.
Yeah, no, that's that too. That's me being a dismissive asshole, but like goats. I never actually really played this one. I just really knew about it more than I ever actually experienced it. It apparently has good music for what that's worth. And Kate and Logan seem to like it, so maybe I'm being, again, way too quickly dismissive of it, but I don't know.
I never knew goats were that explosive.
I actually have seen that, so. So, yes, and here I guess.
I do kind of like how this game sort of has like a Tony Hawk-esque combo gauge that you can rack up. I don't know. This one I might actually play more. I've never really given it Post Pro Skater. Okay, well, when you put it that way, that actually does make it sound more appealing. So maybe I'll look into it someday.
That cat,
But
that goat's
that's
derpy. Wow.
Yes, as Logan noted, this actually was part of a game jam the company was doing, and it was just so popular they decided to just go ahead and make it a full game. Prior to this, the developer made the Sanctum games, which are like action tower defense. Some of the first one of those too, and they're both really good games. So I'm curious about this one, as I never really gave it a spin. I'm not a big fan of sort of open world or sandbox games because I always like. It's like what's the term? Is it selection paralysis? There you go. Something along those lines where it's like, I have so much to do. I will do nothing.
Yeah, no. Yeah. That's why I prefer my games to be like Contra and give me a much more definitive left to right goal. I mean, call that skill issue on my end, if you will, but I like having much more obvious goals in games if it can be helped. So
I guess.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I was going to say kind of the joke of it's not a bug, it's a feature. Was kind of part of the design philosophy with this, where some things it's like, well, that wasn't exactly intended, but that's hilarious, so we're going to keep it in the game.
Hey, if it works, it's like ad libs in a movie. But my big question is, does it accurately simulate goats?
Probably not. To be fair,
I don't think so.
As much as a squirrel with a handgun.
Oh, Jim! I was going to mention squirrel with a gun. Actually,
that looks kind of neat. That's one I can get behind. Just because of how ridiculous
awesome.
it is.
I'm all fucking for that one, and that's not just because I really like squirrels too. Okay, that's part of it.
Maybe they can do a reskin and make the squirrel foamy.
Now that's a deeper cut.
Taking out his squirrely wrath in the world.
Steam Workshop could actually do that. I'm sure someone would probably do something like that with that. But
I totally see it.
But no, talking about the memes as games and streamer bait and that. I'm reminded also, I can't think of the name of the game, but it's essentially like a fighting game with crabs with knives.
Oh, I think that one is called Fight Crab, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Fight Crab. Yeah. So yeah, and I mean, to me, Goat Simulator always kind of felt in the same category as that too.
Yeah. Well, anything else? Anybody else have anything else to say about Goat Simulator? Besides, the general consensus is you should play this.
Goat's cool. I like
I was
the Hail
Yeah,
Caesar.
I was gonna say I think it is fun for what it is. I mean, it's ridiculous, but it's supposed to be.
Well, it works for me.
Hmm.
Can't say I've ever seen anything like it before. I can definitely say that. So
Mhm.
now, a game that was brought up earlier in the chat by Zafiro would have been Getting Over It, and here it
Yes.
is.
This one might be the ultimate streamer bait game, but I don't know. Maybe again, I'm probably being cynical. I know this game has value for some people, but no, this one was absolutely made to cause YouTubers to get pissed off, and I can respect that for being that. Like, I recognize that's its main purpose and foremost in being in life. But is it actually good as a game? Is the question I have.
I mean, yeah, I would say it's okay. So this game has a backstory. I'm sure most people know this by now, but it's actually based on an earlier sort of shitpost sort of game that someone made called Sexy Hiking, where you're a guy with like a hammer.
Hmm.
He has floating hands and he has a hammer and he uses that to drag himself around. And it has a lot of the same elements as this, is that it's very frustrating and that it's really easy to lose progress and have to start
Yep.
all over. But I think the thing about Sexy Hiking that a lot of people don't know is I believe it actually has a save mechanic. Like, I don't know if it's a quick save. I don't know if it's in between screens because it was kind of split up into screens more than it was, I think, this huge world you have to navigate. But you can kind of see some of the elements here. Like, this guy has a hammer, just like the guy in Sexy Hiking, and he also must
Hmm.
traverse an environment that really does not want him to succeed.
Hmm.
Kate, you're probably right. Again, I'm probably being cynical. As the night goes on, I'm showing more my bitter true colors of the state of modern gaming. So I'm being a jerk. I'll give you that. If you're a fan of Bette Foddy, then that's great. I do respect his design ethos quite a bit, even if I'm not sure I actually like playing his games. For what that's worth.
Yep.
I've never even
And
heard of the guy.
I was gonna say I would argue also where you said it's a game made just to like piss off streamers and that it's like while that's true on the other end of the spectrum, I think this is a game that appeals to more of the hardcore gamer, the speed runner who sees it as a challenge, something that's easy to fail at, but also something where they can show their skill and how quickly they're able to overcome the challenge of the game.
Might be interesting, I'll say that, but I've never heard of this dude Foddy before, and when discussing this stream in the first place, it's the first time I've ever heard of this. But that's what being a virtual caveman's all about, Charlie Brown.
Yes. Yes, it is.
Hey, got to self-promote. Don't forget that.
Wait, are you Charlie Brown or are you Snoopy or Linus or like what peanut would you say you're most like, Rob?
Snoopy.
Okay, well that's fair.
I have a
Can I be
fascination with
Woodstock?
World War One.
Can I be Woodstock?
Sure.
Woodstock's great. He's
You,
cute.
you guys speaking all that like, from now
Yeah,
on.
no, yeah, that's pretty accurate. Tire is Ziggy? What?
Unless I'm taking off every Ziggy for great justice.
God damn it.
No, I'm definitely Snoopy.
Yeah, that's fair.
You sleep on a big red house?
Oh yeah, all the time.
Hmm. Hmm.
And it becomes a stop with Camel, and I go fight the Red Baron and everything. It's great.
That's actually good at Atari 2600 game too.
Yeah, it was. All right.
Oh yeah, it was. Hmm.
Anyone else have anything to add about Getting Over It? No one?
No, not really.
Okay.
Not especially.
All right. This last one I want to talk about real quick is something. You remember back when the Xbox indie games was a thing?
Oh yeah. That was,
Yes.
There was
one
one.
of the few things keeping me on board with games is once again, Doritos are running amok.
Well, I remember seeing this game. I downloaded the demo, and then later on, there's that Rage Quit thing on YouTube. But Rooster Teeth did it, I think. And though I found those mildly amusing from time to time, but the one they did for this game, I about fell out of my chair.
Yes.
That That game would be No Luca No. And here it is. To put it simply, Luca is trying to get your food, and you have to shove him away.
I remember this now. I actually recall this.
I just thought it was
That's
hysterical.
yes, that's the cat owning experience right there. You have
Exactly.
sushi, well, it's not going to be in your mouth long.
Yep. And the rage quit commentary on that was just the funniest thing I'd heard. Eat the food. Feed your cat, dude. Because, of course, if you don't stop Luca from getting your food, this happens. He doesn't eat the food. He just licks the milk. And there's a whole pitcher of milk behind him.
It's forever contaminated.
Cat germs.
But
I just have fun playing the demo of this. I think I still have it on
That's good.
360.
How does the full version differ?
Yeah, I was going to say, like, isn't the demo just like that's all there is, my friend? If that's all there is, let's
a couple
keep
extra modes you can unlock,
Huh.
Okay.
like the cat toy. It's literally just that, a cat toy. It's like a blue dot that you make move around the screen with the analog stick. And the thing is, it'll give you instructions, but it's just kind of whispering like this. So when you hear it, you're not sure what you actually are hearing until you're like, oh shit, someone's talking to me. So,
Dang.
I was gonna say a bit off topic, but a few years back there was also, I don't recall the name of it, but a cat simulator game where essentially you're on a timer and your goal is to knock over as much shit off of high ledges as possible.
Cat lateral damage.
Cat lateral damage, that's it. Yes.
Yes.
seeing as how in the past, I'm going to say 6 to 8 months, I've had more cats than I've ever had in my entire life. I can relate to these games a lot more now.
Yep.
Oh, Bruno. Can't you come up with a better shtick than that? You kind of run that one into the ground, man. Besides, we're talking about an Xbox 360 game here, an independent game, but look, it's a cat, and it's eating your food. No,
Your
Luca.
Your goal is to stop said cat from eating food.
And why does he have two spoons?
Well, your
there?
food.
Yep, and notice how big that bowl is?
It's a little unproportional for a cereal bowl, yeah.
Yeah, that's like a soup bowl or something like that.
Exactly.
Which some people think cereal's a cold soup, so I guess there's that.
What?
Yeah.
But what? No. That's no.
Yeah.
Well,
But
that and talking about proportions here too. The cereal itself looks like small biscuits or something instead of like flakes.
The cat's
looks
very
like
small too. That has to be a very small cat.
Yeah.
Is that a bowl of corn pops specifically? I think those are corn pops.
Looks like it.
They look like, yeah.
Could be. I was thinking it was kind of Rice Krispie looking too, but I don't know.
Do you know how many bowls of your cereal it would take to equal the amount of fiber in one bowl of colon blow?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a great one.
Yeah. Phil Hartman on top of a giant pile of cereal is just great.
Yep.
Colon blow you in the morning. That was almost good as the yard of
And there was super colon blow.
Oh yeah, super colon blow. That was back when SNL was like pure gold.
Oh yes.
Hey, that was the era of Happy Fun Ball.
Yep. Do not taunt Happy Fun Ball. Yeah. And they were on a goddamn streak after they ditched fucking Piscopo. Jesus.
Yes. Good thing I don't have that picture handy, Mike.
Yeah, don't do that.
That's okay. I couldn't do it even if I wanted to. And I do want to.
Fuck you.
But yeah, on that note, anyone remember Yardapult?
Yardapult.
That sounds familiar.
Sure, not sure.
It's the yard catapult.
Yes.
It's how you get rid of old air conditioners and charcoal briquettes. And how it can even help you with those special problems. But Daddy, since Pippi's dead, shouldn't we bury him? We're just helping him get to heaven, honey.
Oh wait, that's another SNL bit. I
Yes.
thought you were like describing another X-Paw game.
Oh, Yardapult the game would be one of the greatest things ever.
No,
And remember, nighttime launching recommended for septic tank refuse.
And yes, Logan. Norm was great. May he rest in peace.
But
Really sucks that Joe Piscopo's still alive. Okay, that's me. I don't know.
so, that little skit there also reminded me of a Flash game that was rather popular while I was in high school, Kitten Cannon.
Yes.
Kitten Cannon.
Yes.
There were so many of those games. There was also
yeah.
Toss the Turtle, and there was, I think, Nanako Crash. I think that might have
Nanaka
been the
Crash.
original
Yes, I
one.
wanted to bring that one up. That one that's apparently based off of some sort of hentai or whatever. That
God.
like,
Weird.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
but
but you wouldn't know it just playing the game itself. So.
but I figured if we started talking about Flash games, we'd be here all night.
Oh
Yeah.
yes.
Yes,
That
exactly.
is a huge like rift of black tar to open up and just plunge in.
Also, Gigacorn
this subject.
Pops. I believe Prime is correct. Those do look like Gigacorn Pops.
Yeah.
Oh yes, most definitely.
Anyway, we're going to go ahead and cut it off after this. So, we had a couple others we could have talked about, but in all honesty, I'd never played either of them. I don't know anyone who really put more than a couple of minutes into them, so...
Yeah, I know of them, but I don't think I've played either one.
Yeah. So...
Yeah.
Oh, well, one of the games I did actually play, one of the two we could have talked about, that being No One Can Stop Mr. Domino, and I didn't get too far in it. That I couldn't quite grok that one. It's pretty tricky.
Right.
Everything can stop Mr. Domino?
Yeah.
I was going to say, yes, that game is flagrant fucking false advertising. Like, you bastards. You, just call it Mr. Domino. That No One Can Stop is just really setting you up for, a literal fall of the domino. It's
Yep.
It makes sense to me.
Yep. Everything can stop Mr. Domino.
Yes.
I never played Mr. Mosquito also, so
Yeah.
it is what it is.
Oh, thank you, Kate.
Yes, thank you so much.
So,
And thank you, the people, for listening in on our crazy shit that we talk about.
and for those who weren't
Indeed.
here in time to see it, there is Betty's background for this stream.
Hmm.
It is very great. As always, she did a great job with it.
Oh, yes. Yes.
I just love the fact she included the bald guy who pops up.
Yeah.
Apparently announces the boss or whatever that you fight in the PS1 Choaniki, which
Yep.
is all digitized graphics that look really bizarre.
Yep, you're seeing
Yep.
a few of them now.
Hmm.
Yes.
So that begs the question, though. When are we going to get the Cho and Nikki roundtable?
Yeah.
Well, we have tossed around the idea of doing kind of a semi-sequel roundtable to this, except this time we're going to be talking about games which have just gimmicks, but are otherwise standard games. So, like, say, Toilet Kids,
Weird
for
theming.
example.
Yep.
Or Booger Man, even.
Yeah.
I would prefer not to get into Booger Man. Thank you very much. But Cho and Iki's definitely be discussed if we do that one.
I would suggest the Earthbound series.
That
I
is-
do love Earthbound, yes.
yeah, it's got that whole modern day kind of
Mhm.
gimmick, I guess you could say, as opposed to your fantasy or space age settings.
Right. Mhm.
So,
But yeah.
but yeah, we'll definitely have more to talk about in the coming weeks. We're going to have another Dyer's Place video or two. As I said, the last one we did, the next one is going to be titled "The Weapon." You'll find out what that is when we get there. And we also have some upcoming roundtables planned for the Assault Suit games, and also classic graphic adventures.
Hmm.
So these should be fun. I don't know much about classic graphic adventures, but I think I might be able to hold my own for a couple minutes anyway.
I can talk about the LucasArts ones well enough. Anything else, it might be a little beyond me, except for a few exceptions here and there.
And at what point we do go ahead and do that one, you can expect Betty to be participating.
That'd be
Nice.
great.
This will be in her wheelhouse then. And beyond that, though, we've got some other stuff planned, and you'll just see what happens as the year goes on. So,
Sounds good.
all right. So,
Yeah.
thank you, everybody, for joining us. Yes, a wild Betty will appear. So,
Oh, yes.
thank you, everybody, for joining us, hanging out, listening to us ramble about all sorts of things from weird games to Saturday Night Live. So, until next time, everybody have a fun.
Enjoy.
Not everybody.
Good night.